Hello, stargazers! I am your magician, but you can call me Aster! And welcome back to your glass heart in my hands! What the... Oh, okay. I changed some audio settings with my microphone, and so I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, why is it behaving like this? It's acting strange! But no, we're all good. Brace yourselves, toxic yeti! I'm so excited. But, yeah, so last time, because it's been a little bit, we were playing Finding Paradise. Last time, we, had our protagonist got poisoned. And, our protagonist got poisoned. And then hacked up. I had to quickly speedrun the other one. So now we are dating our maid. Hello, Aster. Everything good? I lost the other streams but made it to this one. Welcome in. Yeah, all good. Feeling a little tired today. Because I've been, this is completely unrelated, but, I've been doing an accelerated math class, and it is just awful. I hate math. And then, of course, since it's accelerated, it's, like, really fast, so... Her OS is already sleepy. Yeah, I am. But it's okay. Alright, let us begin. So, what happened before? Oh, yes. That's right. So, our maid has been kind of giving us just, you know, real, like, princess treatment. And we're a little suspicious of it. So, let us continue. You see the depths of your maid's affection in person the following morn, when she enters your chamber to wake you. You sit by your cup of tea, as per the custom, though the tea has not been wholly agreeable as of late. Oh yes, we did have, we were considering that our maid may be poisoning us. Wait, hold on. Because we've been hit with this mysterious illness. Wait, was it like this? Oh. There we go. And now I'm alive again. Alright, here we are. Welcome in, Jonathan. There's an unpleasant, earthy taste to it, accompanied by a peculiar bitterness which lingers on your tongue long after swallowing. This must be the strange herbs your maid has been buying from this Dr. Godwin. You cannot say you like them very much, but perhaps it is an acquired taste. You force yourself to swallow, in any case, not wanting to displease your maid, even if part of you wonders whether your rules have not become curiously reversed. Surely you, as a young lady, should not care so much about a maid's feelings. You know, if your parents were aware of your feelings, they'd castigate you for them. But your parents have never bothered to trouble themselves with you more than is strictly necessary. Perhaps you're being unduly paranoid, worrying about what they might think. When have they ever spared you any consideration? Your condition has been deteriorating by the day, yet still, they do not bother to check on you. You cannot remember the last time you even spoke to your mother. Is it any wonder, then, you would turn to your maid for comfort? She is no doctor, but at least she is trying to help you, with her herbal teas and the cool flannel she uses to wipe down your fevered brow. Your maid has always been good to you. But she seems to be in something of a curious mood this morning. She paces back and forth in your bedchamber, looking rather like a caged animal. Her arms are held stiffly at her sides, just like a soldier's, and her fingers are tightly clenched. Clenched with such force, her fingernails scrape against the tender insides of her palms. She wanders to and fro, the hem of her dark, severe dress swishing about her ankles, and as she paces, she hisses under her breath. Though she is speaking softly, the sound is harsh, the verbal equivalent of a scouring brush. You set your cup of tea to one side, back on its patterned saucer once you've drained it. Then you sit up a little straighter in your bed and crane your neck, trying to listen. You look at your maid askance, and as you do, you think you catch a fragment of her dark and unruly mutterings. "How could she?" your maid hisses, wearing a hole in the carpet with her continued pacing. "How could she? How could she?" Your maid inhales. There's an uncomfortable pause, and then... "That bitch. When I see her again, I'll gouge her eyes out. I'll bash her goddamn head in. That rancid, evil, heartless bitch." You stare at your maid mutely, wide-eyed, not knowing what to say, not knowing what to do. You do not know what a bitch is beyond a female dog, yet you get the distinct feeling that is not what your maid is talking about. Nobody could ever accuse you, after all, of being unintelligent, nor unobservant. You know that something is seriously wrong, but you know not what that something is. Welcome in, Freddy Fazbun. What a name. Your maid is angrier than you could have known anybody to be before, angrier than you have known anybody could be. You survey her from the safety of your bed, Percy by your side, and you shiver, though your maid is not entirely devoid of awareness. She notices, after a pause, how you shrink away from her, and her expression softens. She turns to you, her expression newly gentle, though even behind that you can sense that her displeasure is churning, as she says, "Oh, I do beg your pardon, milady. I apologize if I made you uncomfortable." She did make you feel uncomfortable, but you tell her not to mind it, that it doesn't matter. This is what you tell everybody if they make you uneasy. Not that people often ask. They never much seem to care about your opinion, which is why you always say that you don't mind. Welcome in, Rosalind. You know that this way, it would hurt less when you inevitably discover that they do not mind if you mind. That they do not care. It is better to feign that you do not mind than to be upfront with your feelings, especially when you know that you will be greeted with apathy both ways. This is how you have been raised. It is what you have come to know. But something doesn't quite sit right about all of this. Tadaima, okaeri. You cannot help but feel you shouldn't lie to your maid like this, not about your feelings. You shouldn't need to. But your maid seems reassured by your words nonetheless. She seems not to realize that you are not telling the truth. Or if she does not upbraid you. Instead, she smiles as she says, "Thank you, milady. I knew I could count on you to be understanding. You've always been so good and gracious. Not like your fucking ugly bitch hag of a mother." Why? Hold on, let me turn the game up. It's very quiet. Yeah, this is about good, right? This is so funny, though. Like, just completely out of left field. Your maid's short, sharp words take you by surprise once more. And again, you blink. Actually, turn it up one more. Like, here. Yeah. You look at her, wide-eyed, and ask, your voice trembling, "What happened? What did your mother do?" She did nothing. That's the worst thing about all of this. I tried to tell her earlier when I paused by the parlor that you did not wish to marry Lord Worthing, that you were having second thoughts about the whole business, but she didn't listen. She ordered me to be silent. She said she didn't want to hear my opinions on the matter. Yes, that's what she called it. She said it was a matter, your maid says, spitting vinegar, as though your future was nothing more trifling than a bill from the haberdashers. She didn't care tuppence about what I had to say, and she didn't seem to care about you either. She completely ignored me, as though I'd not been with you for years. I've always known that your mother is a selfish harridan, but to dismiss me so thoroughly. I was so upset I saw red. I had half a mind to pick up the poker from the fireplace and... You imagine that your maid means to go on, working herself up into a lather, but here she pauses. She catches your eye, and perhaps she sees how uneasy her bluster has made you. You cannot read your maid's mind, so you're not sure what entirely she's thinking. Oh, my poor mistress. I'm so sorry carrying on like this. You needn't hear this. It's not like you've done anything wrong. But you're certain that your maid is thinking of you. That's why she's so upset. She's doing this for your benefit, working herself up into a fury over your own inevitable fate. She knows that you do not want to marry, though you've been unable to express as much. You were always taught that women are like small children, to be seen and not heard. But you've never had a voice, and often you feel like you might as well not have a visage at all. Nobody seems to care overly much about you, not your parents and not Lord Worthing, but your maid does. She's here, at least, where all others have failed you, and she cares. You do not even need to tell her how you feel, because she seems to divine your mood regardless. She can tell what weighs upon your mind, and she now takes steps to rectify it. She sits upon your bed, the mattress sinking beneath her weight. Then she reaches to take your hands, squeezing them gently so you sigh. She smiles, then says, "Well, it's all right. I'll try to fix things for you. I'll sort it out, all out, my lady, just as I've always done. I was born to serve you, my lady, and I'll see to it that no awful men will ever be able to bother you again. I promise." Your maid leads in and brushes a few strands of your fair hair to one side. Then, very gently, she kisses your forehead, skimming her lips against your feverish skin so you shiver. She draws back, her eyes full and dark, heavy with some intense emotion that you can't quite place. But then she glances away, and the spell is broken. No longer do you try to perceive what she is saying. It no longer signifies. She smiles, then says, "Now, let us speak of lighter things. You still look a bit peaky, so perhaps we can't go outside. But would you like to play whist? I'm going to do my best today, I swear it. I won't let you beat me again." Now, that is a rather funny thing for your maid to say. You know that she could best you in whist easily if she so desired. She only lets you in because she thinks that is what you want. Because she feels sorry for you, sitting in your room day after day with nothing else to occupy yourself. She lets you in as an act of mercy, just as one might put a dying dog out of its misery. She lets you in the hopes that it'll sweeten your lot in life, like a spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. But you are no idiot, even if you are meek and mild-mannered, and you know that your maid has been lying during your games of whist. Your victories have all been built on falsehoods. You wish that you could trust your maid, and indeed, you trust her more than anybody else you know. But that is not saying much, really, when you know precious few people. Your world is hopelessly small. It is just you and your parents and your maid and Lord Worthing, though he hardly features. You do not have any friends. Wild, raucous Elizabeth doesn't count. Hey! Oh, that's interesting. So, Elizabeth actually isn't our protagonist this time. We are not Elizabeth. Maybe we're Justine. すいません、このゲームは何ですか？実は私もあんまりわかりませんね。なんか、記憶を失ったみたいですね。主人公さんが。そして、自分と思い出をなんか全部思い出せようとしてるみたいです。今はなんかそのなんか一つの設定かな。What is West? It's a card game. Anyway, so Elizabeth is not us this time. We are not Elizabeth, which is interesting. You do not have any friends. Wild, raucous Elizabeth doesn't count. You do not have any allies. You only have your maid. If you cannot trust her, there's nobody you can turn to. And this thought makes you shudder. Your heart clenches inside your breast as though it's been caught in a cage of thorns. You wish you had not thought of that, but now it's occurred to you, you cannot unthink it. You try not to dwell upon your own hopelessness, but you do wonder from time to time whether you rely upon your maid much more than she relies upon you. You're drifting, lost amidst the sweet oblivion of sleep. Your game of whist with your maid proceeded as it always does, with your overwhelming, a little too obvious victory, which left you feeling unsatisfied as always. You passed your idle hours as best you could, either talking to your maid or flipping through the pages of a book. Yet, you cannot forget your maid's faux surprise when she let you win at whist once again. You know she does it for your sake, but you wish she wouldn't bother. Her exclamations of surprise all ring hollow. Gonna call buddy, may or may not come back. Take care, Fanta. They do not convince you, and you begin to fear, as the day escapes you, that her smiles will begin to seem similarly unconvincing. What will you do if your maid does not truly love you? This thought plagues you throughout the day and long into the night, so much so, you welcome the inevitable oblivion of sleep. Your maid helps you into your nightgown, pale pink this time, like the skin of a ripened peach, and she brushes out your hair as you sit before your vanity, 100 strokes delivered in a precise, pristine manner. She prepares you for bed as she does every night, with the stringent attention of an Egyptian embalmer, as if she means to prepare you for the afterlife. You lie in your bed at your maid's behest, pulling your sheets about you, cool and crisp and white and pure. You snuggle against Percy, whose fur is a little matted from old age, who is now missing one eye. You love your natty old teddy bear, of course, no matter how old he might be, no matter how threadbare. He's seen you through many dark, stormy nights, when the thunder cracked outdoors like dropped dishes and you feared you would die. He's always been your steadfast, stalwart companion. But you fancy that there's something of the grave about your poor, dear Teddy. He feels like a funereal gift, a token which will come with you to the afterlife. You cannot shake the feeling that this may well be the last night of unbroken slumber that you have in quite some time, that your world will fast alter before your very eyes. But surely you're being paranoid. Your maid might have been upset earlier, yes, but she's often upset. There's nothing to suggest that today's upset was any greater than the upsets of the past. Nothing to suggest that anything is amiss. Welcome in, Chichi. You're overthinking things. You always do that. You worry too much. And you've been worrying more than usual lately because you've been unwell. Your head feels too heavy, as though it's been eaten away by termites. It feels like a hole has been bored into your skull. It aches. And so, you sleep. You surrender yourself to dreams, where nothing can hurt you, where nothing can go wrong. You sleep, and you sleep, and you sleep. This was so short! And you do not wake up. And you continue to sleep, as the world drifts away from you, as your worldly concerns, once so pressing, all begin to melt away. You know, though you do not know how you know, that no good will come of waking now. Ignorance, as they say, is bliss. And were you not blissful with your maid as she brushed out your hair, as she picked out your pretty dresses? That is the life that you wish to cling to. It is the life you've always lived. You doze and you drift, and as you drift, you dream. You dream of your maid's hands in yours, your skin soft, just like your favorite nightgown. You dream of cool, clear lakes, of meadows full of delicate, beautiful flowers. You dream of cobblestone streets, of churches with dark, twisted spires the color of aniseed. You dream, and you drift, and you doze. And in so doing, you need never open your eyes. You need never confront reality. You need never realize what your maid did, nor what you became. And you are, for all intents and purposes, happy. Or as happy as a corpse can be. Goodness, what a pain. This isn't how I anticipated this experiment to go. Excuse me, are you listening to me? I think I've granted you plenty of grace, but you need to start playing along. I need you to wake up. But you eventually awake. It is inevitable that you would, for nobody can sleep forever, however much you might wish for it, however much you might will it. Your eyelids flutter open, inevitably, inexorably. You expect, upon waking, that you'll need to peer through the darkness, swimming through sheets of it, pressing down upon you like fathoms upon fathoms of salty seawater. But, to your surprise, you awake as you always have. Experiment? So I'm thinking, right? I already established last time that I think Dr. Godwin is the narrator. Dr. Godwin is the one that probably provided the valerian to the nurse. And probably... I mean, she was also confirmed to provide the poison... Not the poison, but the herbs that the maid was putting in the tea. So... It is light outside, and the sun streams in through your curtains. The light dapples your pillow and your cheek, gently warming you, in an act of divine benediction. My theory is that it was you, Aster. Hey. The sunlight is soft and soothing. You lean into it, as a child might seek out their mother's touch. But there's something strange about your bedroom. A cursory glance, however, reveals that your room looks as it always has. The sheets pale blue, your favorite landscapes lining the walls in their ornate frames. Your little vials of perfume are still arranged upon your vanity, and so is your favorite sun hat. Nothing seems out of place, and yet... Faintly, you can hear something. A whistle of the wind, perhaps, or... No! Is that a scream? You sit upright in your bed, your slender body trembling, your eyes impossibly wide. You glance about, turning your head this way and that, not too sharply though, else your stomach will turn. You feel sick. You can smell the peculiar aroma. Or maybe it would be more correct to call it a stench. You do not yet know it, in your innocent ignorance, but girls who have spent their lives working on farms or in fancy kitchens would be able to name that smell in an instant. It is the stench of the slaughterhouse. Some great act of violence has been perpetuated downstairs, beneath your very feet. But you are a well-bred young lady, and you do not know what blood is supposed to smell like. You know blood only when your monthlies arrive, and that blood, dead blood, is not the same as this blood, freshly spilled all over the Turkish carpets. Your mind does not know the smell, but your body reacts to it all the same. You wince, winding your arms around your middle. It is a warm, sunny morning, but you find yourself shaking regardless. What is going on? You sit there in your bed for what feels like a small eternity, straining your ears to detect the smallest of sounds no matter how far away. Until, eventually, it comes to you. The repetitive tapping of approaching footsteps. There's somebody coming down the hallway. Somebody standing by your door. You see the handle twist, hear the lock click. Your breath catches in your throat. You turn your head and then... Milady! It's so good to see you again. Looking at your pretty face makes me feel better. I don't think there can be any more effective balm for my nerves, not in all of the world. She is standing there, just as you expected her to be, just as you were hoping she would be. Your maid has arrived for you, as she does every morning. She's wearing her usual attire, the black gown and the white apron. In one hand she's holding a tray, upon which is laid in a teapot and teacup and a couple of scones, again, as she does every morning. Your maid has awoken you every morning for almost a decade. This is how it should be. It is how things have always been between you, and how you've always imagined they will be in the future. From now, or so you like to imagine, until the end of the world. This is what you want. But there's something horribly wrong with your maid. Her white apron isn't as spotless as it usually is. It is spattered, instead, in gobbets of bright red. And so are her hands. So are her cheeks. You suck in a breath upon seeing her. What little color you have voids your face, and your maid, seeing this, winces. She approaches your bedside. You cannot help but shrink away from her, and says, "It's all right, milady. I know my current appearance might be alarming, but you don't need to worry about me. None of the blood is mine." So it is blood. You thought as much. You might not recognize its scent, not from a distance, but you are not so very sheltered that you do not know what blood looks like. It streaks across your maid's cheeks like Celtic war paint of old, as if she's Boudica. Is that how you say it? Come to drive the Romans out of Britain. Her hands, meanwhile, are slick and wet with the stuff. Such a deep, rich red, it looks as though she's wearing gloves. Bright red smears the delicate tea tray in her hands. It mixes with the scent of your tea so your stomach churns. This shouldn't be happening, but... Shh, your maid says. Boudica. As if she's soothing a baby, though you haven't said anything yet. It's all right, milady. Everything will be fine. You've endured a lot, I know, but you don't need to worry about that now. I fixed it all for you. I fixed everything. Everything will be all right. It's all fine. Your maid repeats these pretty little phrases like a broken automaton, her mouth snapping open and closed. As she sets your tray on your bedside table, sets it down with a clink, just like always. She's acting as she always does in the mornings, performing a pantomime of your shared routine, but there's a stiffness to her shoulders, an awkwardness in the way that she moves. She doesn't sound even remotely convincing. You look at her with anxious eyes, feeling like a small rabbit, one which has been cornered by a hungry fox. You swallow, your throat shifting. Then, very quietly, you ask her what happened. What did she do? It is unfortunate, your maid says, after a pregnant pause which suggests it really is anything but. But your mother refused to listen to me. What on earth? How do I say that? She was being rather recalcitrant, actually. I told her once again that you had no interest in Lord Worthing, yet she ignored my pleas on your behalf. She was being quite cold, actually, positively frigid. Why, talking with her was like trying to argue with a glacier. That's how receptive she was. She was so aloof, I knew my words could never reach her. I'm not sure why I bothered, really. I knew from the beginning that it was all useless. But still, I wanted to believe. I tried to tell her how you felt, but it was all in vain. I tried my best. Here, your maid's voice trails off. She inhales sharply, her pupils seeming to shrink inside of her head. 2 pinpricks of color, drifting in a sea of milky white. Her fingers curl at her chest, scrabbling, as if she means to dig into her own skin, to tear out her own beating heart. She winces, and then... But what good is trying if it doesn't yield results? I knew it was a pointless endeavor from the beginning. Who would ever listen to a maid like me? I doubt the lord and lady know me from Eve. I've been working my fingers to the bone for them for years, ever since I was a child, ever since my 12th birthday, and for what? I might be your lady's maid, but the lords and ladies of this world, they can't distinguish me from the urchins who work in the kitchen. I am nothing to them. I am less than nothing to them. They did not care what I had to say, seemed offended, in fact, that I dared say anything to them at all. They wouldn't listen to me. So, I had to make them listen. I had no other choice. You look at your maid mutely for a few moments. Watch her rock back and forth, her arms twined about her middle as if for protection. But what does she have to protect herself from? Surely she's taken care of any potential threats already. If anything, your parents are the ones who ought to have protected themselves from her. She might be a maid, but she is no mere maid. Her cheeks and fingers are not stained with coal from the scullery, or ashes from the fireplaces, but with something far more vivid, much more viscous. You know what this is, of course. You can smell it in the air, rich and thick, so intense your nostrils twitch from it. You know what your maid has done, but stupidly, foolishly, you still ask her what she did. How did she make your parents listen to her? I made them listen, your maid says, her voice scattershot, a little distracted. The only way I knew how. The only way animals can be made to listen. I already told you, my lady, that your parents are not half so genteel as they like to imagine themselves. Though they wear fine clothes, and they have all of these airs and graces, they're nothing more than beasts. They're foul, filthy, unrepentant animals. Your maid spits, her eyes narrowed with hatred, her words dripping with vitriol. And everybody knows that you can't reason with beasts, as it is impossible. They don't understand words. So I had to use violence instead. I'm not proud of it, your maid continues, seeing the way you tense. But some sacrifices have to be made. I did it for your sake, you know, your maid continues, her voice soft and gentle, but deceptively so. In the past, your maid's caring tones used to reassure you. Now, however, they leave you feeling cold, uncomfortably chilled to the very marrow of your bones. I did it for your sake, your maid said, as though this was something you'd asked for, as though this was something that you wanted. I did it for your sake, she said, her face mottled with bloody freckles, her once white apron stained with gore. I did it for your sake, she undoubtedly told herself as she thrust the blade of a knife forth, if indeed she did use a knife, and she rent skin from bone, slicing flesh up like raw meat. She killed people. She killed your parents. She killed Lord Worthing too, though you cannot help but think he at least had it coming. And she doesn't even look remotely sorry. She doesn't even look shaken. Does she not care about what she's done? Or does she simply care about you more? You find yourself shivering, despite the sheets which are draped around you. With uneasy eyes you examine your maid, who seems to misunderstand your unease. She takes a seat upon the side of your bed. You try not to wince as she smears blood over your sheets, then cups your cheeks with both hands. She looks into your eyes, her pupils dilating. They no longer look like pinpricks as she says, "Oh, you're all right, my lady? You're trembling so much. You aren't cold, are you?" I'm trying to see if her pupils actually dilated. I swear I saw it, but no, I don't think it's there. Cold. You look at your maid mutely, momentarily dumbfounded. Does she truly believe that you tremble from the cold? How could that be when you were still swaddled beneath your sheets. It is a warm, sunny day, and the birds are chirping outside on the boughs, the leaves green and verdant beneath the sunshine. The summer's coming, the weather's fair, and there's no need for you to shake so. The sunlight which graces your exposed shoulders is gentle, like the embrace of a lover. The maid's touch, meanwhile, makes your stomach churn. Her fingers are slick and sticky with blood. There's so much of it, it's begun to turn black. The blood, and not her blood, as she was quick to reassure you, has coagulated on her fingers so it feels almost thick, sticky like tar, like treacle. The blood, your parents' blood, stains your bedsheets. It stains your cheeks. The smell of it is overpowering, rich and coppery like old pennies, and it makes your stomach twist. You stare at your maid, your stomach twisting into knots. You wish that you could blink and all of this would disappear, that her hands would be wiped clean from blood and all would be well. But you know things could never be well again. She's already killed 3 people without flinching, perhaps more. Who's to say what she might do next? You were always so close, you and your maid, and yet... The longer you stare at her, the more you find you no longer know her. You knew she had her passions, of course. Some of the things she said about your parents were decidedly un-Christian, but never did you think she would go this far. Never did you think she had such violence within her, coiled within her like the dark exterior of a slumbering snake. You did not think. But you've never thought much, have you? As a cosseted, well-cared-for young lady, you never had to. You were not content, exactly, but you allowed others to make all of your decisions for you. That's how you were raised. You thought it was right. You thought it correct that your parents were the ones to map out your future, that they had the final say on your future happiness and unhappiness both. You never thought about rebelling. The only time you ever asked for anything of your own accord was when you inquired so shyly whether your maid might become your personal servant. That is the only time you've ever spoken for yourself. So of course other people will try to speak for you. They'll put words into your mouth, and then they'll carry out deeds on your supposed behalf that you never asked for. Violent, visceral deeds which leave you feeling faint. If your parents saw it fit to wed you to Lord Worthing, then it is only natural your maid would see it fit to halt this. She has not done anything that your parents have not done for you, to you, already. Like them, she has taken your future into her own hands. She is doing what she thinks is best for your supposed benefit. But why did she never ask? You'd expect such callousness from your parents, who never seemed to care about you, but your maid? You thought that you could trust her. You loved her, but she didn't love you in turn. Not the way you wanted to be loved. She took your love, then trampled on it. She acted without your knowing, and now she claims she did it all for your sake. How could she? You continue to stare at your maid, frozen in place like a sculpture, as your maid examines you. She holds your cheeks between her palms, her red palm stained with gore, and exhales. She frowns, then says, "Oh, Justine, my dear darling lady, why are you looking at me like that, as though you don't know me? Why are you trembling so? You've no need to fear me. I never meant to hurt you. I was trying to help you. I did it all for you, just like the tea. That was all for you too. It has always been for you." The tea? What is she talking about? What other secrets has your maid been hiding from you? For you're sure now that she's been keeping secrets. Nobody can murder 3 people in cold blood. But was it only 3? Without being capable of subterfuge to the highest degree. What other lies has she been feeding you, sickly sweet like macarons? You stare at your maid, while your maid stares back at you. Her eyes bore into yours, while her lips slowly purse. Her voice, when next she speaks, is soft and gentle. She speaks to you as a mother might recite a child's bedtime story. Her cadence soft and gentle, disturbingly so, given she's still covered in blood from tip to toe. Yes, the tea, she says. Though you've already begun to grasp its significance, are now beginning to wonder whether you want to know what she's been doing. It was in the tea all along. I put it in the tea. But I had to. I had no choice. There it is again. That well-worn excuse which can only get her so far. I had no choice. Perhaps such an excuse might work if she were trying to explain throwing away a pair of old stockings so holy they could no longer be darned, but to explain away a murder? Several murders? It doesn't quite ring true. Your parents said you were to wed Lord Worthing, but I knew you had no interest in the man. You complained about him enough, though... No, that isn't quite true. You do not complain, do you, Justine? You're too virtuous to complain, not like me. And far too well-bred. Your parents told you that women ought to decry their lots in life. They told you to be obedient. And you took this lesson to heart. You never complained, but I knew what was in your heart. I knew you did not want to marry him. Why would you? An officious, pompous boor like that. I certainly had no fondness to spare for that awful man, with his little mustache and his inflated sense of superiority. So I devised a plan. It was quite the ingenious plan, really, if you don't mind me boasting. No, you do not mind her boasting. Your maid has committed sins far, far greater than vanity this morning. Thank you. I'm glad you understand, your maid says with a small smile. Now, you've probably gathered what I did already. You've always been such a smart girl. But since I'm here and I'm covered in blood, I might as well tell you. For the last fortnight, I have been mixing hemlock into your tea. Hemlock? Is that not toxic? Your maid says, with a small smile. She nods. Yes, indeed. Good job, dear Justine. I knew you'd understand. You've always been so very clever. I dug the hemlock in the dark, in the woods by the garden, and I've been mixing it into your tea ever since. And not enough to kill you, of course, but enough to incapacitate you, certainly. I thought, if you fell ill, not deathly ill, but ill enough, that your parents would take some degree of pity on you. I thought their fond feelings for their only daughter would trump their desire to make an allegiance with Lord Worthing, and they would call the wedding off. I had hoped that they would love you more than they love the allure of gold. But I was wrong. I put too much faith in your parents. The beasts, the bastards that they are. And your sickness didn't compel them to call off the wedding. If anything, they seemed inclined to speed up the preparations for fear you might pass away before Lord Worthing had a chance to put a ring upon your lovely little finger. They were determined to wed you regardless of the cost, even if the stress, as the physician deduced, of your upcoming nuptials was eating away at you. Dr. Godwin herself said the wedding might be the cause of your mysterious malady, yet that did not sway your parents. I feared that nothing could. They were too callous to care for you, my dear Justine. They had no fond feelings for you even when you were horribly sick. Your maid's fingers, which were once cupping your cheeks so gently, now tighten. You feel her nails scraping against your skin. Feel cold, hard keratin beneath all the blood, and you wince. So, I killed them. I killed them using a cleaver which I liberated from the kitchen. Ah, so that is the murder weapon, is it? You'd wondered. I cut your fine, fancy father's throat. I cut it so deeply a jet of blood spurted from it in a crimson spray. caught me here and here and here too, your maid says, now gesturing towards herself. For such a fastidious man, he made an awful mess. It was quite unpleasant, really, but it was easy work. That cleaver went inside his throat so easily. He offered no resistance at all. It was just like slaughtering a lamb. And I've done that often enough on my parents' farm. He crumpled to the ground in seconds after I tugged the cleaver out. And that is when I made a start on your mother. Welcome in, Alita. You come in at an interesting time. Her, I disemboweled, like the sow that she is. Her intestines spilled out of her stomach in a warm rush. I wish you could have seen it, Justine. I'm certain you would have found it satisfying. There was more blood, but I was able to avoid the worst of the splatter this time. I learned, you see, and I adapted. I might be a maid, but I'm no fool. I can't read this. My God. Babes, this is really descriptive. Like, this is really graphic. Hold on. Let's here. We'll keep reading here. Your grasp of human biology is poor. It is not a subject you were ever schooled in. Your parents thought it too vulgar for a young lady. But you know that no human can survive with their intestines pulled out. Not for too long, at least. I'd be going into good old turf here. Not the first time, but this is pretty intense. Thank you for the 2 Nana! Your poor mother. You were never very close to her. In fact, you might have been afraid of her. But still, you find yourself imagining her final moments. You imagine your maid descending upon her, the soles of her boots heavy on the floor, and you wince. For all of your mother's faults, you do not think she deserves such a grisly ending. You can't imagine that anybody would. Of course, I dispatched of Lord Worthing too. Your maid continues, her voice low and hurried, almost feverish. I would rather not dwell on what I did to him. It isn't exactly ladylike. Because pulling your mother's intestines out of her abdomen is a much more appropriate topic of conversation, you're sure. But, needless to say, he won't be bothering you anymore either. None of them will. Not your parents, nor Lord Worthing, nor any of the silly servants who tried to stop me. I dispatched them all. They're all dead and gone now, my dear Justine. Nobody can make you marry if you do not wish to, and nobody can harm you. I did this all for you, my mistress, my lady, my one true love. You were once caged away like a little bird, but now you are free. Is that not wonderful? Couldn't you laugh out loud for joy? Don't you feel thankful? Your maid stares at you, her eyes wide and dark and awful, like 2 bottomless pits, 2 vast, staring voids. You can tell that there is something deeply, deeply wrong with your maid, as though the reddish-brown blood daubed on her front did not make that immediately obvious. Once, you thought you could trust her. Now, you fear you'd be a fool if you continued to do so. How can you trust her? Dear me. How can you trust somebody who not only lets herself loose and waste, but who's killed your parents? You do not care overly much about Lord Worthing, and who has been slowly, steadily poisoning you. One of these crimes would be bad enough, but all 3? That really is unforgivable. You wonder whether you should tell your maid as much. Funnily enough, you do not feel at all thankful about her intervention, but you are not afforded the choice. You open your mouth, but no words come out. Instead, you find yourself coughing. A dry, hacking cough so loud it takes you by surprise. You press a hand to your mouth, your eyes squeeze shut from the sheer shock of it. You feel like a weak, feeble, fragile thing as you cough over and over. Your whole body quakes. You feel horribly bony as you hack dryly, chest heaving. You've been coughing a lot lately, ever since you fell sick. Ever since your maid made you sicken. But never has it hurt so much as it does now. It feels as though your throat is being scoured by steel wool. And there's an unpleasant taste bubbling on your tongue. Is that... "Oh, my lady!" your maid exclaims, agonized on your behalf, as you start to cough. "Are you alright? It sounds as though you are in pain. Here, take this. Please, feel free to make use of it. Like everything else I own, it is all yours." Your maid hands you a kerchief as she speaks, a neat little square of fabric which was folded up and stashed away inside her skirt pocket. Though your maid's clothes are spattered with gore, you notice that the handkerchief is quite clean, almost perversely so. It seems strange this little square of fabric should have emerged from your maid's multiple murders unscathed, but it does not remain so for long. You press the kerchief against your mouth gratefully. Your maid might have murdered your parents, but she is doing you a kindness, allowing you to preserve your dignity. You cough against it, over and over, while your maid rubs your trembling back, muttering soothing remarks as she does. Eventually, your coughing fit subsides. You draw the kerchief away, feeling lightheaded, and the moment you do, you gasp. The kerchief was once ivory, but no longer. It, too, has been stained bright red. A vivid flower is beginning to blossom upon it, even redder than the roses which grow in the garden outdoors. Naturally, it is blood. Naturally, it is your blood. You've coughed up phlegm before, but never blood. You're accustomed to your monthlies, but never before has your blood bubbled from your mouth like this. You stare at the kerchief, shocked into silence. Your fingers curl about it. They curl so tightly your knuckles crack, while your maid sighs. "Oh dear," she says, sounding so softly, sweetly sympathetic you almost, but not quite, forget what she's done. "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I suppose that will be the tea taking effect. I slipped a little more hemlock into it yesterday than usual. I thought it prudent after I had that altercation with your mother. I'd already discerned that she would not listen to reason yesterday morning when I tried to dissuade her from wedding you to Lord Worthing. I saw your future before my eyes, a future where you would suffer, kept under the thumb of that odious man. So I sought to liberate you, using whatever means necessary. Naturally, I planned to kill your parents." "Naturally," she says, as though it is, well, the most natural thing in the world. "How funny. You don't think that mass murder is the natural answer one would hit upon. But then again, you are no great thinker. You're no scientist, and neither are you a scholar. You're just a lady. Who are you to say what is natural?" "But I wanted some insurance, in case my plan was unsuccessful. I thought I would poison you more thoroughly than before, so that you would at least die, even if your parents did not. This way, I could ensure that you would never have to marry that awful Lord Worthing. He will never be able to walk you down the aisle now, not if you are a corpse. Though, he will have a hard time trying to walk anywhere at the moment, with his head split open like a pomegranate. He was easier to best than I imagined. I slaughtered him so easily, even though he took up a poker. He tried to defend himself, but he knew not what to do with it. He jabbed at me a few times, rather ineffectually too, as if he were fencing. He probably did fence in that university of his," your maid continues, her upper lip curled with obvious derision. "He fancied himself an expert with a rapier, but he had no bloodlust in him. He was only showing off, and to a room full of corpses, too. Well, I soon disarmed him. Then I all but decapitated him. He will not be able to wed you." But I had to be certain, your maid continues, taking her cheeks between her fingers once more. I had to know that he would never be able to marry you, even if I was unable to best him. It was a foolish worry of mine, as now I can see. But I was doing it for your sake, Justine. Your maid entreats, her fingers sticky against your skin. All of this I have done for you. I meant to save you from your fate however I could, even if I had to kill you. Then, is it inevitable that you'll die? Your maid finishes for you. There's a small pause and then, yes, I should think so. You're coughing up blood, dear thing. You have not long left for this world. But don't worry. I love you. I love you, so I will not leave you. I cannot live without you, your maid says, as though this ought to make you feel better, smearing your cheeks as she speaks with obscene red makeup. You realize, as she holds you, that your maid has an irritating habit of telling you not to worry, as if you're an idiot child with no brain in your head. She thinks you a fool. But perhaps she's correct. She only resorted to such drastic measures because you refused to do anything about your own plight. If only you'd spoken up against your marriage match to Lord Worthing, perhaps this never would have happened. Your parents have always been cold and uncaring, but they might have been more inclined to listen to you than a mere maid. Perhaps you could have avoided this, if only you'd been a little bit braver. But it is too late to worry about such things now. You're in so much pain at this point that death itself might be a mercy. There's nobody I love more than you, your maid continues, her voice soft now but frantic, her every syllable threatening to singe you like the flame of a candle. I can't live in a world without you, my dear Justine. I do not even want to imagine it. It would hurt far too much, even more than a knife in the ribs. Or a cleaver through the throat. So let us both die together, your maid announces, her voice feverish, her cheeks faintly pink. I think that would be wonderfully romantic. Do you not agree, my lady? Why, we would be just like Romeo and Juliet. You're not too sure about that. You never much liked Romeo and Juliet. Though it is touted as a romance, you think it awfully macabre, and you fail to see why either Romeo or Juliet had to die. It is all horribly contrived, nothing more than a series of misunderstandings. In the grim, unforgiving world you live in, you sometimes think it would be the braver ending to allow both Romeo and Juliet some happiness. You've always thought death to be an unsatisfying ending to any story. It is final, and leaves no room for confusion, no room for further conversation. Death is the absence of all meaning. It comes for all of us in the end, yes, but it strips us of all our complexities, of our idiosyncrasies, of our hypocrisies. In death, we are all the same. In death, we are all equal. Which means that, in death, we are all equally worthless. You wish to tell your maid that you see nothing romantic in a joint suicide, that if she knew you as well as she claims, she would know that. But you cannot get out the words. You're coughing too much. More blood-red bile escapes from your lips. Your spittle is starting to turn pink, and you heave. You feel as though you'll be sick, but you're not alone in your suffering. Your maid looks at you somberly, her eyes half-lidded. She seems sad, at least, at what she's wrought, but she is not particularly apologetic. She seems to regard your death as an inevitability, like the slow and steady sinking of a ship. I know, dear one, I know it hurts, but I will be joining you soon. Please wait for me, milady. Give me a few moments more. Together, we will die as one. Then, nobody will be able to separate us. Your maid brings the delicate, willow-patterned teacup to her lips. A string of steam exudes from the surface of the tea, which is darker than you've ever seen it. It looks almost black. It's a good thing your maid did not ask for you to sip from this cursed cup, for you know you would have balked at it. Your maid tried to hide the hemlock in your tea so that you would sip it obediently, like a good girl, but she's been far more heavy-handed with her own refreshment. The tea is more toxic than tea. It looks worryingly black, like the extremities of a corpse, like ashes strewn in a fireplace. The maid inhales. Then, she drinks. You watch as she downs the contents of her teacup, watch as her throat convulses, and as she sets the cup aside upon its saucer. Your maid sways, her eyes widen, her pupils dilating until they seem to consume her whites entirely. She lurches forwards, and you wonder for a moment whether she'll expire on the spot. But no. Once more, her slick red palms find your cheeks. She holds you a little more tightly this time, a little more desperately. And she crushes her lips to yours in a kiss. I can't believe I'm this I'm not speaking right. My God. You can taste the poison on her lips, can taste it on her tongue. You gasp against the kiss, hard and harsh and entirely unwanted, and your maid uses this to her advantage. She slides her tongue inside your mouth, her tongue, which tastes of decay and disease. She drank such a highly concentrated dosage of poison, you're surprised it did not turn her tongue black, that it did not start to crumble at the root. Her tongue tastes oddly fleshy, however, in your mouth. It has not turned to ashes, though you fear you, soon, will meet such a sorry fate. Ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. On and on, your maid kisses you. You taste the hemlock in her saliva, its flavor more intense than anything you've tasted before. Your maid draws your tongue into her own mouth. She suckles on it, as a baby might its mother's teat. And, as the poison slowly floods your body, your consciousness begins to fade. Unbidden, your eyes droop shut, your eyelids hard and heavy just like lead. Your fingers have started to feel horribly, unnaturally cold. Your heartbeat, meanwhile, begins to slow. You succumb, bit by bit, to your own inevitable end, to the inevitability of the grave, and the worms which wish to make mincemeat out of your slender, lily-like limbs. But no, this is not a past you wish to recall. This is not a past you wish to reclaim. Did you not see any other paths available to you as you drifted? Any other lives which might be more satisfactory? Why don't you reach out and see, quickly now, while you still can? Why don't you see who else you might have been, and what else you might become? So what was that, everybody? About us not liking the dynamic with the nurse? We thought the one with the maid was so much better. Whew! Aster, I'll ask you again what I asked the other time. Where's the love? We saw it! We had a romantic kiss with tongue. I hated that. Yeah, woof. Unwanted. We got love though. She loves us so much. That said, woof, I'm feeling a little lightheaded. I'm realizing, oh, I'm lightheaded because I haven't had dinner. It's been a while since I've last eaten, so I should probably... I consider this a success. I love love. She's dead! Girl? Yeah, you're right. Go eat? Yeah, you're right. Go eat? Alright, well, everybody, I'm gonna go take a quick break to grab some food. Or rather, I'll bring the food up here with me, and I'll chat with y'all for a little bit. So, on that note, I will be right back. Hello everybody, I'm back. I got a question, why do our parents keep dying? They always gotta die? Of course. You ever see a royalty story where parents stay alive the whole time? Exactly. That was Speedy? Yeah! I just made myself, made myself cheese quesadillas. So I just stuck some cheese on a tortilla. I said it is a little hot, so. But, so, cheese. So I'm thinking, right, need some protein with that? Who needs protein? But I've been thinking, here, let me turn the game down a bit. Since there's no voice acting, it doesn't need to be super atmospheric right now. Out here. So, I was thinking, so now we've established that we have different protagonists for each route, which I appreciate that. It's a new direction for this sort of visual novel that Eddie is doing. Because, I mean, we had, like, midway through Glass Heart, like, last stream at least, I was kind of thinking, like, man, you know, I clicked on this game and, like, I'm playing it on stream because it was kind of advertised as, if you enjoyed Lonely, you'll probably enjoy this one. And I was like, okay. And so I was playing through it and I was like, God, this feels like exactly the same as Lonely. And so having the different protagonists adds some fun spice, and I like that. It's interesting seeing how the protagonists all know each other, which is really interesting too. Because we heard Ezra talk about Justine as someone who's just spineless. And we've heard Ezra describe Justine as boring as well. And we've heard Justine describe Ezra as, like, boisterous, loud. I didn't put enough cheese on this. Mild and rambunctious. But yeah, so... But it's interesting that... Like, we can kind of see... Do you remember the water? I do have water. It's interesting to see also, like... I think we haven't seen the name of the protagonist for our last route. But, was it... I feel like I heard the maid mention the name Eve at some point, so I wonder if Eve is our final protagonist. Wall-E. Oh my god. You're all gonna kill me. I've never seen Wall-E. I should watch it at some point. Maybe I'll host like a server movie night or something. What? Gasp! Oh wow. Wall-E's so good, I'd love a server movie night. We're streaming that. End of story, goodbye the end. You should watch it, it's good. I'll watch it soon. Cancel stream and watch Wall-E. Wall-E is S tier Pixar. I like Pixar in general. Like, I don't know. Generally, they just release good movies. Like, here, let me... Yeah, so they made Toy Story. They made Monsters, Inc. They made The Incredibles. They made Ratatouille, they made Wall-E, they made Up, they made Cars. They made Brave, I love that movie. They made Inside Out, they made Finding Dory, they made Coco. Oh, I love Coco. They made Turning Red. See you later, Kier. Don't forget Luca. I haven't seen Luca. Soul is really overlooked. Is Soul Pixar? Monsters Inc? Yeah. Oh, Soul is here. I never saw Soul. I guess I should. Coco had me bawling my eyes out. I did cry watching Coco. I love that movie. Oh, and the music is just wonderful too. Soul is Pixar, but it came out during the pandemic. Oh, that's unfortunate timing. There's a theory that all the movies are intertwined in some way. Hey. That's kind of fun. I don't think I've watched a Pixar movie since Inside Out, so I'd be down. We should host more server movie nights. As soon as I heard bawling, I got a notification that said, it's very sad that... What, in the Toby Fox? Because all the tracks are connected. Oh, with all the leitmotifs. I'm so happy that Toby Fox popularized that, by the way. Like, I know that it's been a thing, right? But, or maybe I just wasn't, like, alive enough to really notice. But, I don't know. I feel like I didn't see a lot of, like, musical leitmotifs until Toby Fox. And it's just been wonderful seeing it, like, grow in popularity. Do y'all want to watch The Dark Knight as a stream movie night? Is this Star Wars? Or or did I just embarrass myself on stream? While we're on the subject, what do y'all think of Noelle's antlers? Cute. Oh, it's Batman. Oh, haha! Not even close. I'm sorry. Superhero movies and, like, Star Wars are, like, basically shonen anime. And I'm not into shonen. Alright. I finished my food. Let me get some water. So you think Shona should jump? Aster's laugh is still so funny. But okay, back to the game though. We're going back on topic, chat. But one more thing I want to say before we continue. So we have established also. I was thinking about it. And I was thinking about how, so, a magical girl's laugh. I was thinking about how Ezra is so, like, rebellious, right? She has these big, lofty, like, aspirations. She's saying things like, I don't want to be called a girl, or I don't want to be a lady, I'd rather be a lord, which I think is more so because, as we've seen in Justine's scenario, women don't have any power in this world, and I think she just wants to have as much power as she can. And so for her, becoming a lord would be, like it would give her more power. I don't know if it necessarily means that she wants to be a man. She might want the power that comes with being a man. And so in light of that, she's very, very, like, rebellious, very driven, has all of these big goals. And so she recovered really quickly. And then we have Justine, who just has no backbone whatsoever. Like, she has maybe just these tiny, tiny ambitions, But even if she has any, she's fine without them. Like, she doesn't need to have those ambitions of hers come true. Or maybe it's less of that, but she's not willing to put in any work for it. She's just like, yeah, you know, my life, it kind of sucks, but I mean, I have my small happinesses, and that's enough. And so it's to the point where the maid is like, well, you know, if you don't want to marry this guy, don't marry him. And she's like, well, you know? I'm looking at the content warnings. The continued misgendering of trans. For realsies? Is that canon? That's crazy. So Ezra is... That's so interesting! That's interesting that Evie would have something like that in, yeah, content warning. Wow. That's so interesting! Alright, so Ezra is transmasc. That's cool! I was always kind of floating the idea around, but I never thought that it would actually be. Huh. But it makes sense, because I mean, also, you know, there's so many nicknames for Elizabeth. You know, there's Eliza, there's Lizzie, there's Beth, and the one that he settled on was Ezra. That was what he called himself in his head. And that's... oh man. I guess that would also explain why he was into, you know, like, quote-unquote masculine hobbies, like horseback riding. Huh, that's interesting. I don't know why a proper lady would walk around call themselves Ezra of all things. Anyway. I like probably when you clip the description, the game section says it gets so lonely here. I chose that because it's very, it was advertised as similar in nature and also it just makes sense. But anyway, Ezra's a cool name. Yeah, it is. Anyway, let us continue. Let's meet our final protagonist. You continue to drift in the darkness. It submerges you like tar, like oil. There's something oddly reassuring about the darkness, something soothing. But you know you cannot drift forever. There's work which needs to be done. I's to dot and T's to cross. That's hard to read. There's a mountain of paperwork awaiting you, and all sorts of charts which need collating, all sorts of reports which need to be written. This work will not sort itself out, and you know full well, even as you drift, that she is not going to do it herself. She's always been so slipshod and slovenly, so incredibly careless. She does not call out to you. There's nobody to call out to you, but you are still able to force yourself awake. You've woken yourself for the last 2 years, and you're certain you will continue to do so, no matter what curious avenues your life might take you to. You no longer have any maids to rouse you. You only have her, and the thought of her waking up before you is farcical. She's never once woken you, save for by accident, when she stayed awake long into the early hours of the morning to study, when she's tripped over a pile of books, and the resultant crash has stirred you from your slumber. There's no crash this morning, however, no resultant whimpers of pain. There's only the sound of the chirping birds outdoors, and an uncomfortable crick in your neck. Did you fall asleep at your desk again? It wouldn't be the first time. You wince. An unpleasant, sour taste fills your mouth. When was the last time you brushed your teeth? And your brow furrows. Though you know your responsibilities well, you still feel wary. Part of you, rather a small part, mind, but it is still there, would like to sleep just a little while longer, shoring up your strength before she sends you out on any further fetch quests. But you cannot drift forever. She is waiting for you, and she relies on you. She might be a genius, but she is completely hopeless when it comes to everyday affairs. She can cultivate life inside a petri dish, but she does not even know how to dress herself. She will wither away without you, like a rose in the winter. She will suffer and sicken with nobody to brush her hair, to prepare her food, to make her bed, to ensure that she lives. She cannot do anything on her own, this savant sister of yours. This rare and unusual idiot who cannot even scramble an egg without starting a fire. And so, you force yourself to wake up. Good night, burning coal. You blink, and when you do, you wince. It is as you thought. You did fall asleep on your desk. I need to turn the game back up. Amidst several scattered documents, charts and graphs and all manner of miscellanea you can't even begin to name right now, there's an uncomfortable crick in your neck and in your back, and a sour taste persists in your mouth. The taste is unpleasant, almost acrid, and you wince. You can't quite place it, not for a few moments, but a glance to your right at the cacophony of cups placed amidst the sea of documents soon clears that up. You were drinking coffee last night, in an attempt to keep your eyes open. Endless cups of it. Good night, Elf. Well, that explains that mystery. It is little wonder the inside of your mouth tastes like a charnel house, or that your head hurts so much. You ought to have expected it. You sit up at your desk, wincing, and gingerly you press a hand to your neck. You probe your muscles, which feel taut and hard beneath your skin, all knotted. Your fingers sink into your neck, procuring from you a sharp hiss like a boiled kettle. Then you turn. She is there, because of course she is. She never leaves this room of hers, will pore over her studies at her desk for hours on end. She isn't doing any pouring right now, however. Fatigue must have caught up with her, at long last, and now she lies slumped, her cheek resting against her own desk, her eyelids closed. Her hair sticks up from her scalp at all angles, and her skin looks very pale, almost sallow, in contrast. She snuffles a little as she sleeps, her chest rising and falling. Her fingers are curled upon the desktop, as small and delicate as a young girl's. Everything about her is small and delicate. A diminutive figure. Her clothes always seem too big and baggy for her. As a result, she looks almost half-formed, swamped by her own skirts. She looks like a child playing pretend, a young girl who has rifled through her mother's wardrobe, pulling on the clothes within at random. But her mother died many years ago, as did her father. That is why she was sent to live with you in your decently sized abode, when you were both young girls, only 10 years old apiece. She is your companion from childhood, but she is also, by the same token, so much more than that. Your father was acquainted with her father. They went to university together, and once were business partners, though they lost contact over the years. In most other stories, that would be the end of matters. But your father heard somehow that his former friend's wife had succumbed to an illness, his friend to the grief which ensued. In the wake of these unfortunate deaths, there was nobody to look after the young daughter which was left behind, until your father, always a bleeding heart, resolved to take her in. He welcomed this strange, pale-faced, bookish girl into your home, and your life changed for good. Before she appeared, your days were horribly dull and drab. You stayed indoors like a good little girl, for that was what your mother wanted. She was something of a hypochondriac, and you played with your dolls. You attended your lessons, and you read only the books which were considered appropriate for a young girl, and you always took care to mind your manners. You were well-bred, well-brought up, well-behaved, and you were horribly, achingly, indescribably bored. You railed against your lot in life, but only ever internally. As a young lady, you knew better than to say what you really thought, to try and make a scene. You did everything that was asked of you without complaint, while inside, you screamed and raged and gnashed your teeth at the stupid, vicious, pompous banality of it all, until she arrived at your doorstep. You'd never met her before, and you took against her at once, especially when your father asked in that hopeful way of his you to treat her like a sister. A sister! You've never heard of anything so preposterous. She was a stranger. How could she be your sister when you were nothing alike? She looked foolish on your hand-me-downs, with her fair hair tied back futilely, for it never lay flat, with your ribbons. So much so you laughed at her. In the beginning, you thought of her as an amusing distraction, something to take out your petty childhood rages on. You'd kick her covertly at the dinner table, and you'd pinch her as you passed in the hallway, and you never did let her play with your dolls. You scorned her, and you sneered at her, until that fateful day when poor Safi suffered an awful mishap. You were skipping along in the garden, Safi in tow, imagining that you were a grown lady, that she was your small daughter, when you stumbled. Then you fell. You collapsed to the ground, Safi tumbling from your arms. You sustained only a few shallow injuries yourself, a skinned knee, a bruise on your ankle, but Safi was far less fortunate. As a delicate doll, she was made of far more fragile stuff than a 10-year-old girl. She happened to fall awkwardly, and, to your horror, her beautiful head hit a rock jutting out of the grass. The rock did not shatter her porcelain face, but Safi did undergo a rather gruesome transformation as a result. Both of Safi's lovely eyes were knocked loose from the force of her fall. The dull smack of porcelain against rock sent both of her eyes falling into the vast, empty hollow of her head. You scrambled to her feet after you fell, then grabbed hold of your poor doll. You stared at her, shaking. And then, upon seeing her empty sockets, you began to scream. You screamed and you screamed and you screamed until your throat threatened to tear. Tears began to bead in your eyes, hot, wet tears like condensation on the side of a teacup, and your nose started to run with snot. Safi's new, eyeless visage was so horrifying that, for a few minutes, you forgot all sense of decorum, all sense of poise and grace. You forgot that you were supposed to be a lady. You cried, not as the daughter of a baronet, but like any gutter snipe would, upon being caught out filching a loaf of bread. You cried so loudly and so very excessively that your plaintive wailing could be heard across the garden. A nearby gardener started while pruning the topiary hedges, and he dropped his shears, almost slicing off a few of his toes in the process. The gardener was unharmed, fortunately, and not that you much cared in the throes of your immense grief, but the same could not be said for your poor Safi. She looked so frightful. With those empty, staring sockets where her eyes had once been, you could not look at her. She started to scare you, your beautiful doll whom you'd loved as dearly as if she were an extension of you. You began to fear that your connection with Safi had been irreparably severed, that you would never be able to love something so malformed, no matter how hard you tried. But Safi's fate was not set in stone. Your sister soon heard of what had occurred, and she asked to see Safi later that night. Then, in a muted voice, she told you that she might be able to help. She sounded sincere enough, but you did not immediately trust her. In fact, in the beginning, you did not trust her at all. You'd never been kind to her after all. You'd seen her a usurper in your household, a competitor for your parents' affection, and you worried she might use this as a chance to retaliate. You wondered initially if she meant to do Safi further harm, if she would smash her porcelain head to pieces like sand on the beach. But your sister sounded sincere enough, and she looked the part with those wide and innocent eyes of hers. She seemed genuinely concerned for Safi's plight, and what did it matter, you told yourself, if she did harm Safi further? Your poor beloved doll's eyes has already fallen inside her head. Let your sister fiddle around with her. She could hardly hurt Safi more than she'd already been hurt. You shrugged carelessly, as if Safi's plight did not matter to you, and casually gave your sister permission to probe her. She could take a look at Safi if she wished, though you doubted anything would come of it. It seemed unlikely she'd be able to fix her. That is what you thought, at least. But then, a miracle occurred. Your sister had Safi for only a brief while, 15 minutes if that. During this small window of time, however, she was somehow able to fish Safi's clanking eyes out of her cranium. She set the eyes back into place, her slender fingers quick and nimble, and handed her back to you without any flourishes, with only a quiet monosyllabic, "Here." Initially, you found yourself incapable of believing it. You marveled at how your sister had managed to repair Safi, leaving behind no trace of her interference. Why, Safi looked as good as new. What black magic had your sister used to heal her? Your sister looked at you flatly and said there was no magic. She hadn't done anything special. I just put her eyes back into place. I had to saw open her skull first to fish them out, but I put her back together again. Her hair covers it, so you can't even see the seam. It wasn't that difficult. It sounded difficult to you, despite your sister's explanation. Difficult and extremely technical alongside it. But you were so relieved to see that Safi was alright, you didn't bother to press the issue. Instead, you smiled, your faith in this strange girl swelling within you. You'd never much cared for the pale, pinched girl who had come to stay with you, but this single interaction converted you. Your new sister had saved Safi, although she'd been under no obligation to. You'd always been perfectly horrible to her, yet she still came to your aid, without asking anything in return. After that, your opinion of your sister altered. You began to see her not as a parasite, but as a true member of your family. Ever since that day, you endeavored to make her feel welcome, and in so doing, apologized for how cruelly you'd once treated her. You stopped trying to trip her in the hallways, and you stopped playing mean-spirited jokes on her. You began to spend time with her instead, inviting her to take part in your imaginary tea parties and perusing her favorite books by her side. You listened to your sister talk, faltering at first, of her parents, and how they died. You held your sister during the first and last time she sobbed for her deceased mother, and you ran your fingers through her hair. You told her, your voice as soft and as soothing as your own nursemaid's, that it would be alright. She didn't need to cry. You were there for her. You promised your sister that you'd pledge yourself to her, and that is exactly what you did. Now, more than a decade later, you and your sister have remained inseparable. Not twins in the biological sense, but the spiritual. Your sister once told you that she dreamt of becoming a doctor, or, a scientist. It was her dream to revive the dead, so that she might be able to see her mother once more. A dream she has pursued doggedly, no matter how impossible it might seem. Your sister studied hard, so much your parents realized it'd be a waste to let her languish in the family estate. She was sent to boarding school at the age of 12, and later she was even able to secure a scholarship to a well-renowned university. Naturally, you followed your sister, first to school, then to university, though you received no scholarship yourself. You are no scholar yourself. Your examination results have always been decidedly mediocre, but you are determined to do all you can to aid your sister in her studies. You traveled all the way to the capital to aid your sister in all of her trivial day-to-day affairs. For, genius though she may be, she has always been hopeless at looking after herself. You and your sister rented rooms, a run-down atelier which once belonged, or so you had heard, to a painter of some renown, and you helped her move in. For the last 2 years, you've kept your living space neat and tidy. Or as neat and tidy as you can keep it, when your sister leaves so many books about, and the air smells faintly of turpentine. Turpentine? You prepare your sister's meals, and you pick up your sister's scattered belongings, and you generally ensure that she's taking proper care of herself. That is your lot in life. A maid of sorts to your sister, though you don't mind this. You think it's what your sister deserves. She is a genius after all, the genius who saved Safi, and who might one day save humanity. Others at the university might scoff and sneer at her. Your sister is one of 5 female students, but you will always support her in her endeavors. You have no choice but to support her. You do love her, after all. Your love for her is intense and driving, just like flames, which threaten to consume all else. But for all of your love, you have found yourself woefully incapable of convincing your sister to actually attend her classes. She's become more and more ensconced in her research these past 6 months, ever since she stumbled upon the findings of one Dr. Godwin. Upon discovering this enigmatic doctor's thesis on life after death, your sister has redoubled her efforts to eradicate all illness, all disease, the very concept of death itself. So enamored has she been, she stopped attending classes. She stopped going outside. She's become a complete recluse. And, were it not for you, you fear she might have wasted away already in the prolonged pursuit of knowledge. Naturally, you tried to dissuade your sister from focusing too intensely on Dr. Godwin's thesis. You tried to impress upon your sister the importance of her studies, and how wonderful an opportunity it is that she was accepted into university at all. You know, you told her in a fit of passion, women aren't often allowed admittance into universities. These are places for men, where they learn how to dissect bodies, how to take people apart, how to hold life itself in the palms of their hands. That she was accepted is a miracle in and of itself. Could she not make the most of this opportunity which she has yearned for so ardently? Why does she not content herself with studying medicine, so that she might help more people just as she helped Safi? Does she not remember how happy she made you when she cured your poor, beloved doll of her awful ailment? Just think of how many more people she can make happy if only she was willing to work for it. You said all of this and more to your sister, hoping it might sway her, but your words were ineffectual. They rolled off her, like water drumming off the canopy of an umbrella. "I know," your sister replied, in that slow and sleepy voice of hers, "that I'm lucky being allowed to study here. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, which is why I can't throw it away. If I don't indulge in my studies now, Carl, I'll never get a chance. I won't have access to all of these books, or all of the equipment I've been loaning from the biology department. I'm not throwing this opportunity away. It's the opposite. I'm making use of the only opportunity I might have, the only way I know how." Your sister stood firm against your dissent, for of course she did. She always has been so determined, despite being so diminutive, so dogged in her perusal of the one ultimate truth. You knew that she would never listen, that she's far too stubborn. So, in the end, you folded, just as you always do. Sometimes you wish you'd been harsher with her, but you fear, if you'd spoken to her too sharply, she would have turned away from you altogether. Then, you would no longer have a sister. There would be a hole in your heart where your love for her lay, and you would have been broken. Your sister is your sun, who illuminates your dreary days. It is she who gives you a purpose, and it is about her you revolve. Without her, you would not know what to do with yourself. You need her, and you cannot deny the shiver of delight you feel when she calls you by her childhood nickname. Caro. My Caro. To all others, you were Carolyn, a posh, proper name, but not to her. To your sister, you've always been Caro. I guess it would be Carol? Caro. From Latin, carus, loved, yeah. You knew the moment. Caro in Portuguese is literally expensive. You knew the moment she addressed You knew the moment she addressed you thus that any argument you might have thought to make would be summarily defanged. Your sister might be small, but you've never been able to stand up to her. She holds all of the cards, and perhaps she knows this. She is a scientist, after all. She likes to take things apart to see what makes them tick. She always has done, ever since she was a small child. In her youth, she takes snuff boxes apart at their hinges and pry open the cases of carriage clocks solely to see how they fit together. In the beginning, she was not always able to put these delicate, fiddly, finicky antiques back together, but she soon learned. Now, only master horologists can best her when it comes to understanding the shape and form of any clock, from a large grandfather clock to the smallest of pocket watches. Good night, Blaze. Her thirst for knowledge is unquenchable. If she can take apart a grandfather clock, then you're certain she can take you apart too, breaking you down to your core components. She knows what comprises you, and she knows only too well what strings to pull to bend you to her will. You have no will of your own, not where she's concerned. You've always been incapable of saying no to her. You prepare her food, and you clean her clothes, and you also, during days like this, wake her from her slumber so she might face the day anew. You observe her for a few moments, marveling at how unguarded she looks when asleep, how small and finely formed her features. Her nose is snub, her lips pursed like an angel's, and her eyelashes are very long. Her dainty fingers look like a doll's, the nails surprisingly neat despite the messy nature of her experiments. Her nails are pale pink at the tips, a soft rose color, which look almost as though they've been painted, glossed and buffed to perfection. You think her perfectly adorable, even if she's begun to drool in her sleep. Despite that, you cannot help but love her. You love her as you've never loved anything, or indeed anyone else, and you're sure that will never change. You continue to observe her, content to bask in her soft, sleeping form, before, with a smile, you lean in. Gently, you wipe away the string of drool stuck to her chin. Then, your voice light, you tell her to wake up. She's fallen asleep on her desk again, and she's scattered her important documents everywhere. Though they cannot be all that important, you add with a teasing smile. If they were, surely you wouldn't have drooled on them. What? This, at least, is enough to make your sister stir. She blinks, then says, I wasn't, was I? Oh yes, you rejoin. With the enthusiasm of a pantomime villain, you were. No, your sister says, though she sounds less certain this time. I wasn't. Really? You rejoin, while raising an eyebrow. Do you want to bet on that? What are we betting? You ponder for a moment, one hand resting upon your chin. Then, in a flash of inspiration, you say, maybe a slice of apple pie? What? Are you baking a pie? Not right now, you tell your sister, but you might. So long as she's willing to admit she really does drool in her sleep, like any other mortal. And if I don't admit to it? Well, that's too bad, but there'll be no apple pie for her. No pie. Slowly your sister sits, stretching up the cricks in her arms and neck like a cat. Then pouting, she says, That's not fair. You're playing dirty. I know, you rejoin, but I have to when I'm with you. You don't leave me with much of a choice when you're so stubborn. Now, are you prepared to admit that you do, in fact, drool? There's a pause. Your sister looks up at you sullenly, then says, Maybe sometimes. You grin, the battle won, for now at least, and rest a hand upon her head. Roughly, you pat her, your sister pouts, then tell her you'll make a start on that pie later. First, however, you need to make her presentable. Her hair is an awful mess. Why, it looks just like a bird's nest. I think, your sister rejoins, as you retrieve a brush from the table, that you are exaggerating. There are no twigs or sticks in my hair. Well, that should go without saying. She never goes outside, so when would the opportunity arise? Now, you address your sister. Hold still. What if we're the what if we're the freak this time? Nah. I am 100% convinced that at the end of this route, this woman is going to take us apart and try to figure out how we work. You introduce the brush to her fair tresses, which are so hot. Aster? What do you mean? I'm being serious. I think that's gonna happen. You introduce the brush to her fair tresses, which are so messy they threaten to devour the brush hole. Then, you start to comb. You comb your sister's hair slowly, while she squirms like a grumpy cat. She's never enjoyed these little grooming routines. You know she cannot see the point when she spends so much time indoors, but you like tending to her. It makes you feel as though you have a purpose. Oh my god, how do you say that? Hold on. I'm gonna look this up, because this is a common enough phrase that I should learn it. How to pronounce... Here we are. Raison. How to say. And then I got an ad. See you later, gonna run an errand? Take care!
French pronunciation video. Reason being.
Reason for being.
Reason to be. Pronunciation as well as in English. This French expression commonly used in English.
Oh my god, get to the goddamn point!
Saving of a defenseless woman was often portrayed as the raison d'être, or reason for existence.
The raison d'être. Can we please?
In romance tales
without history, its raison d'être was to create something.
Raison d'être. Okay. Ooh. Anyway, thank you everybody for sitting with me through that. Usually it doesn't take that long. Anyway, it makes you feel as though you have a purpose. A raison d'être. As the French might say. She gives you a reason to exist. A reason to simply be. Without your sister, you're not sure what you would be. Who you would be. And if there's something at all alarming about that thought, you choose not to dwell on it. You push your concerns into your subconscious, where they need never bother you. Then, your voice chirpy, you ask your sister if she has any plans for the day. Marigolds. You beg her pardon? You incline your head, still holding the brush, and blink. This is another one of your sister's idiosyncrasies. You'll ask her a question and she'll reply with a single word as if this constitutes a robust and well-formed answer. You spend enough time with your sister that often you can tease the deeper meaning behind her lack of communication. At other times, however, you find yourself quite in the dark. What, you ask her, does she mean? What about marigolds? Your sister sighs. Her small shoulders slump, as if it ought to be obvious. Then, her voice quiet, she says, I need to pick some marigolds for a tonic. A tonic? Yes, a tonic. I want to conduct an experiment to see what effect marigolds have upon a person's pain receptors. And naturally, I'll test it myself. It won't be toxic. Right. You're not wholly convinced about that. Your sister's definition of not toxic seems to differ from that of ordinary people, but you try not to be too perturbed. Marigolds are not a rare and exotic ingredient. They can be purchased rather cheaply in bouquets at the florists, and you know there are a lot of them by the riverbank. In fact, you find yourself hitting upon an idea. You tell your sister that if she needs to gather marigolds, you might as well go together. You know a place where they bloom in abundance, if she wishes to come with you. What? Your sister looks at you flatly, her eyes narrowed, lips pressed together in a flat, featureless line. Why would I want to do that? Well, why not? Was she hoping you would fetch the marigolds for her ill-gotten experiments for her? That is exactly what I was hoping, your sister says. And my experiment isn't ill-gotten. There's nothing suspicious about it. It sounds like she's protesting too much. No, there really isn't. It will be perfectly safe. You hope so, else you won't be able to enjoy your apple pie later. I will enjoy it. It'll be delicious. Lightly you laugh. You're glad your sister has so much faith in your baking, at least, but you feel there's one thing she ought to know. What? Food always tastes better, you say lightly, when enjoyed after one has done some physical exercise. Is she sure she doesn't want to come and pick the marigolds with you? Yes, your sister replies flatly. I'm sure. But doesn't that seem like a waste? It's such a lovely day, you insist. The birds are singing and the sun is shining and... Time waits for no man. I have work that needs to be done. And yet, you rejoin, she does not mind putting her work aside for a few moments to enjoy a slice of your freshly baked apple pie. That is different. In what regard? I like your apple pie, but I don't like going outside. It's horrible. Well, now that is a shame. You don't think the outside is so bad, really. I know you don't. That's why I want you to go for me. And isn't it a little sad? A genius of her caliber consigning herself indoors all the time. I never said that I was a genius. That's a title that you've given me. I didn't ask for it. No, you suppose she didn't. She hardly ever asks for anything. Often she's so ensconced in her research that she doesn't ask you, or anybody else for that matter, for anything. Your sister isn't especially demanding, not most of the time at least. But still, you feel compelled to impress upon her genius. She might not think of herself as such, but you do. You think she's wonderful, when it comes to biology at least, and chemistry, and how bodies fit together. She is less so when it comes to the rest of the world. There are curious gaps in her knowledge. For when your sister does not care about something, she does not try to understand it. She is content to be wholly ignorant in some affairs, cooking and cleaning, and sometimes, though you hesitate to admit to this, other people's feelings. But your love for her is stronger than her apathy, and you are determined to win her over. You tell your sister that she must go outside every once in a while, even if she doesn't want to. It'll do her some good being able to stretch, to walk, to feel the sunlight on her face. I doubt it, your sister says mistrustfully as you continue to run the brush through her hair. Too much exposure to the sunlight can damage your skin. That is true, you reply, but surely she is in no immediate danger of that. She goes outside so rarely, you fail to see how it could harm her every once in a while. One can never be too careful. I don't want to take any chances. You understand, but you worry she'll sicken all the same, sunlight or no, if she gets no exercise whatsoever. Is it not important to get her heart pumping? I would rather not. I can't stand sweating, your sister replies, her brow furrowed. But then she catches your eyes, and she sighs. Well, alright then, she eventually capitulates, as she often tends to when you really press her. If you insist, I suppose I can go on a little walk. You resist the urge to punch your fist in the air in victory. You do not want to seem too smug, and instead smile. That's 1 point to you and none to your sister. You finish brushing your sister's hair, then compel her to stand, something which takes more effort than one might imagine given she's so slight. Then you continue to tend to her, tucking in her blouse and straightening her skirt. Eventually you are assured she is presentable, and you offer her the crook of your arm. Well, you tell her, your voice sunny, shall we go? Your sister looks at you questioningly, a furrow forming in her brow. There's a small pause and then... If I must. Your sister twines her arm through yours. You have to suppress the resultant rush of euphoria, then leans against you. Wide-eyed, she blinks up at you as she says, Is this alright? Why, of course it is. There's nothing more you want than to wander outdoors with your sister, arm in arm. You can wish for no greater privilege in the world. I think you're exaggerating, your sister says, with a small, rare smile. My company isn't all that riveting, really. For a genius, it would seem there is a lot she is still ignorant of. But I am glad you think so. Would you mind leading the way? It would be your pleasure. Let me look at this. Tatsuya. The scholar. So, she's not called the sister. I was curious about that. She's not called the sister. So, one thing that's standing out to me already is that the scholar is not... We haven't heard the scholar refer to us as her sister. I don't know. I think... This is my little theory. I think that the scholar is still kind of holding... the scholar's still holding kind of resentment for childhood, maybe. And honestly, probably some resentment for what our protagonist makes her do, Cora. And, or Caro. And so I think, Heike, I wonder if she just kind of like fixed the doll out of her own curiosity. And then afterwards she was like, oh, like, I have my sister in the palm of my hand. And she's been kind of manipulating her since. Anyway, I don't know. I think the scholar still does feel close to us. I mean, she moved in with us. But, you know, like, I feel like she does not return our affection quite as much as... Like, she doesn't have the same feelings. Lots of learned helplessness here, that's for sure. You depart, letting the door to your rooms fall shut behind you. How many years of gaslighting would that be? Considering she's in university... some like 6 months have passed at least since she entered university. So, probably about a decade? Maybe a little under? It is a pleasant day, like you'd hoped, and the sky overhead is very blue, broken only by a few clouds. You think it's pleasant, at least, though your sister seems not to agree. She cringes away from the sunlight like a vampire, though vampires of course do not exist, they're not very scientific, hissing like a cat. You look to her askance. Is it too bright for her? And she blinks rapidly in response. Her arm tightens about your own, just like a lost little child. Is she, for all of her intellect, afraid of venturing outdoors? And she says, I'll be fine. It'll just take me a while to adjust. You suppose you can understand that. She doesn't go outside very often, your reclusive genius of a little sister. When was the last time she went outdoors? Your sister's brow furrows in thought. She blinks, then says, now that you mention it, I don't remember. It must have been 1, maybe 2 months? Months! It is even worse than you feared. You thought it'd been weeks at the very least, but you and your sister have both been busy. Time flies, or so they say, when you've been having fun. And you always have fun when you're with your sister. You cannot help but enjoy how much she needs you. It is one of the few things in life which makes you feel powerful. You let your sister cling to you as you walk along the riverbank, leading the way along the verdant, gently sloping banks, which look like something out of a fairy tale. The soles of your shoes crunch against the grass, and as you walk, you cannot stop yourself from smiling. Your sister might be a genius, but she cannot conduct her experiments on her own. You are irreplaceable. And this thought is enough to put a spring in your step during your wanderings. You're able to find the flowers your sister needs by the riverbank swiftly enough, but you have no desire to end your excursion there. It's been 2 months since your sister last exited her atelier, and it would seem a shame to return so soon. Since you were able to persuade her to step outdoors, you might as well enjoy the moment a little longer. You glance at your sister, a small smile playing about your lips, and you ask her what she'd like to do now. Does she have any plans? Plans? Your sister blinks, then says, I always have plans. Now that we have these marigolds, I want to brew this tonic. Time is of the essence. Yes, she said that once already, but why is she always in such a hurry? Your sister has always been devoted Your sister has always been devoted to her peculiar experiments, ever since she was a young girl. But you get the distinct feeling she's been pushing herself even harder than usual. Is there any particular reason? Oh, you know me, your sister replies, glancing away from you as she speaks. They say the devil makes work for idle hands, and we all have limited time on this earth. I don't want to waste it. You can see the logic behind that, certainly, but you're concerned that if your sister spends too much of her limited time indoors, she'll forget what makes life worth living in the first place. You're worried about me, then? Well, of course. How can you not be worried about her? She's your beloved sister. There's nobody in this world you love more than her. Your sister laughs lightly at this, and to your surprise, she sits down. Her skirt pools about her, just like the unfurling petals of a flower, as she says, That's rather funny. You take a seat beside your sister at the riverbank, then look at her askance. What is funny? That you love me so much. You didn't care for me when I first moved in with you, not in the slightest. In fact, I think you rather hated me. Well, she isn't wrong there. But that was a long time ago. You were just a child then. And anyway, you have loved her for far longer than you have hated her. I suppose, your sister says, fishing among the grassy bank for a flower. She plucks it, then toys with it, pulling off the velveteen petals one by one. A small smile plays about her lips, her eyes soft behind the lenses of her glasses as she says, Now this reminds me of something. Of what? Of that game we used to play as children. The one with the flowers? If you peel off the petals, you can determine whether somebody loves you. Or so people say. It's all superstition, naturally. These flowers know no more about my love life than the stars in the sky, but I suppose it is rather romantic. You're surprised your sister remembers these childish games of yours, conducted in the gardens. Is she not too grown up for them? I ought to be, I suppose. I am an adult now. But I was happy then, with you. I might have played these funny games with you, but it was only ever your love that I wanted. And she still has it, you reassure her. You have never once stopped loving her. Not since she saved Safi. Yes, I know. You have been very good to me. But I fear I haven't always been good to you in return. Your sister hangs her head, her brow furrowed. She plucks another flower from the grass, yanking it by its stem. And another, and another. There's a moment of silence, and then... Carol? Yes? What is it? You're right when you say I've been overworking myself. I am aware my conduct has been less than ideal, and it is certainly less than sisterly. I fear I've been neglecting both you and myself. But I need to focus, otherwise I'm afraid I will fall behind, that all of my hard work will be for naught. I have to make something of myself. I vowed when my mother died I would dedicate myself to being a scientist who could surmount the difference between life and death. One who would ensure nobody need cry like I did. I just don't want anybody to suffer. Yes, you did think it was something like that. Is that why she's been working so hard? That, and I feel I need to prove myself. You know, when I stopped attending my lectures, I told you it was because the professors had nothing they could teach me. You can recall that well. You thought it was a shockingly arrogant remark coming from your sister, who has always been so humble, despite her razor-sharp intellect. You did wonder whether something had happened, but you did not want to pry. Yes, I knew that you knew something had happened, I could tell. You aren't my precious sister for nothing. You know so much about me. I wonder why I bothered to keep it from you. Perhaps it was my pride, getting in the way as usual. For somebody so small, I have an abundance of it. Or maybe I have an abundance of it because of my size. I wonder. This does not bode well. You frown, then ask your sister what she means. Did somebody at the university insult her? It might be quicker to list the people in that hateful institution who did not insult me, your sister says somberly, still picking flowers. She now has quite the collection of them. My fellow students often look down on me for being a woman, but my professors were even worse. Some of them were not too bad. I was rather fond of old Armand, but the others clearly thought it was beneath them to teach a mere woman. They looked down their noses at me and they made no attempts to hide it. It was all so very exhausting. You digest your sister's words in silence, your head hanging. You're somewhat surprised to hear her say this, but you're not surprised that this happened. You've never been to university yourself, but you have heard that universities are haunts of men, and prideful, pompous men at that. While more women are attending university now, your sister is still something of a trailblazer. She is spearheading a new wave of female scholars, and while you are proud of her, you did imagine she would struggle to fit in. You were concerned for your sister when you first moved here, but you tried not to show it. You did not want your sister to think you were fussing. You tried to remain optimistic, yet you cannot forget the haunted look on your sister's face when she returned home from her first day on campus. She looked dead in the eyes as you've never before seen her, utterly defeated. She wandered through the atelier slowly, like a clockwork toy which had run down, and she did not sit at her desk to review her notes. Instead, she collapsed on her bed in your shared room, and there she lay on her front for hours. You'd never seen your sister, your fierce, determined sister, look so defeated. That she was able to pull herself up and continue attending her classes after that was something of a miracle. But it seems that, in the end, she was not able to keep at it. She was worn down too much. I am sure I could have learned many interesting things, your sister says, her voice bitter, were I given the opportunity. But it is hard to pay attention when it is apparent your mere existence is a cause for offense. The atmosphere was so horribly oppressive it was hard to pay attention, and it does not help that my fellow classmates scorned me. Most of them were cruel and callous, and those who weren't seemed a touch too interested in me. I could never let my guard down, not for a second. They claimed to be learned men, but many of them were far from it. They were remarkably childish. I could not bear to keep attending, only to be mocked for my efforts. I thought it best to retire to my atelier, to carry out my own experiments unimpeded. But it is important, you understand, that I make some sort of breakthrough. I want to make a great discovery quickly so that I might rub my success in the faces of my professors and my peers, those who were short-sighted enough to scorn me. I want to prove to them that I deserve to earn my scholarship, that I deserve to call myself a scientist. I wish to make a great breakthrough that will make them gnash their teeth together in envy, that will make them feel as small and as pathetic as they've made me feel. I want to show them that they are the truly stupid ones. I need to bash them at their own game, Carol, and I am sure Dr. Godwin's thesis will help me. I'm so close to hitting upon something big, I'm sure of it. I just need to work a little harder. My goal will soon be in my sight. But until I've accomplished that, I cannot give up. I have to keep working. It's the only way I can prove to myself that my existence has worth, that it was not some mistake my mother died instead of me. I have to do this. Until I succeed in my research, I am nothing! I have nothing! You listen to your sister's impassioned speech quietly, as you often do whenever she begins to soliloquize. Your sister is not a talkative person in general. She tends to keep to herself, to communicate in monosyllables. She only speaks like this when she's truly excited about something, or else truly upset. You fear that her research into the nebulous land of the dead is a fool's errand, yet you want to reassure her regardless. Your sister's a genius, after all. She can do no wrong. Though she is mistaken on one point. Oh? Your sister blinks. She inclines her head, then says, "What is that?" She does not have nothing. You are here for her after all, and you have not left. Come what may, you will always be by her side. Your sister inhales. She blinks, then says, "Always?" Yes, you reassure her. Always. Oh, Carol. Sometimes I think you're the only person who understands me. You're the only person I can rely on. The only person I can turn to. I just hope that you don't hate me for what I might become. Hate her? You frown, then ask her why she would say that. You can never hate her. Do you mean that? Really and truly? Yes, you reassure her without a moment's pause. You mean every last word. You will never turn against her, and that is a promise. How could you, when you love her so much? Oh, Carol. Your sister's expression softens, like sunlight spilling through gaps in the gray and gauzy clouds. She leans in, her face a little flushed, and for one mad moment you think she might kiss you. You're half expecting it, actually. Your eyelids are beginning to fall shut when... I always knew I could trust you. You might not be related to me by blood, yet you will always be a sister to me. Your sister reaches out. You see her holding something. Good night! You see her holding something. A circlet made of delicate orange marigolds, picked from the tall grass which sways along the riverbank. Your sister's hands are nimble and quick, and though she is trained with a scalpel, she cut open several cadavers before she stopped attending her classes. Destruction is not the only language she's well versed in. She is also gifted in the art of creation. And the crown she's fashioned for you, out of these lovely golden orange marigolds, is so beautiful you could weep. If only you could preserve it in formalin, the crown, and this rare afternoon spent together by the riverbank. Then you think you could face any hardship without flinching. Your memory of your sister and of this precious moment would remain in your heart forevermore, and you would never have to feel sad or unwanted or uncertain again. You return to the atelier soon enough after this little talk, with your sister's marigolds in hand. You were not gone very long after all, only an hour or so, if that, but the brief time spent outdoors has cleared some of the cobwebs from your head. Your mind feels clear, and your body has been imbued with brand new strength. You're ready to face anything, now that you know how much your sister needs you. The memory of her body pressed against yours burns you, just like a brand, and you sigh from it. You've often worried, from the day you realized how much you loved her, that she might leave you. But your excursion has wiped all such doubts from your mind. You feel reborn, revitalized even, as your sister says, "Now that we have the flowers, will you prepare them for me? Like I said, this tonic won't be poisonous. I don't mean to mix anything suspect into it." You wish you could take your sister's reassurances at face value, but part of you wonders, this would not be the first time she's lied to you. Most of your sister's lies are of the white variety, uttered to put you at ease, but it is a trick she has resorted to one too many times. "Are you sure?" you ask her, hands on your hips. "The tincture will not be poisonous? Are you really, truly sure?" Yes, your sister replies, her composure unwavering. I am sure. The worst it can do to me is give me an upset stomach. All the same, you would rather not risk it, especially when you promised to bake her an apple pie earlier. Is there any way to record the results of this curious tonic? Not initially. We would need to give it some time. I still want to try, though. Well, of course she does. Your sister is adventurous, and she's willing to try almost anything, even the most poisonous parts of a pufferfish, at least once. If not for you and your presence, she would have killed herself at least a dozen times over from her curiosity. But you're there for her, and you can dissuade her against her more problematic impulses. You know when your sister's lying, too, and you think, though you do not know, she is probably telling the truth about these herbs. They're probably safe. You do not want to risk incurring her disappointment in any case if you were to throw them away. And doing so would void the value of your walk along the riverbank. You do not want to let her down, so after a pause, you acquiesce. You'll brew this tonic for her if that's what she really wants. Her wish is your command. Thank you, your sister says, with a brief nod of her head. It is appreciated. While you do that, I will return to Spartacus. There are a few more experiments I wish to run on him. Poor Spartacus! You smile wryly, then tell your sister you feel rather bad for him. Your poor, ill-used tortoise who has lived, surprisingly enough for all of your sister's experiments, almost 70 years. Spartacus is a hand-me-down, a wise, wrinkly creature which once belonged to your grandmother. Your grandmother cherished Spartacus when she was a young girl, younger than you are now, and she later bequeathed Spartacus to her daughter, your mother. Your mother, in turn, gave Spartacus to you, and your sister, who has never been able to leave well enough alone, wound up co-opting him. Your sister began her peculiar experiments on Spartacus in earnest, shortly after she repaired poor Sapphi's sightless eyes. With your permission, she'd time him to see how quickly he could walk down the length of the hallway. The answer to that was not very. How many lettuce leaves he could eat in an hour. She timed how long he slept, his reactions to both hot and cold, and she recorded his stools. Your sister's experiments became more intrusive as the years passed, and now she often has Spartacus hooked up to various cathodes and diodes. Not that Spartacus seems much to mind. He endures his suffering in a serene, graceful manner, like an old man who knows his time will soon come to a close. You do not always like the things your sister does to Spartacus, but you think, or like to think, that your sister loves him, really. She has yet to kill him, at least, which seems like something of a miracle. You're somewhat hesitant to let your sister toy with your poor tortoise anymore, but you know if you said anything, she'd frown and say she's not toying with him. Your sister takes all lives very seriously, even the life of a tortoise. I do not play, your sister says, her voice cool. This is all for the greater good. Don't nag so much, dear Carl. That's right, you tell yourself. Don't nag, Carol. Leave your sister alone. You're both adults now. You need to learn to get along. You tell your sister she may do with Spartacus what she pleases, and she nods sleepily in response. Of course I can. He's mine, after all. Of course, you reply, with a nod of recognition. Everything that is yours is your sister's. But the same does not hold true that everything that is hers is also yours. There is a definite imbalance here, an inherent unfairness which underpins your interactions. But you love your sister so much you do not want to question it. What does it matter if she runs electrical current through poor Spartacus at odd hours? That does not alter how you feel about her. You do not think anything could. You love her so much. You wish that things could stay like this indefinitely. You and her, and your elderly tortoise who accepts being tortured with a benign nod of his head. But you know that this is wishful thinking. Nothing can remain the same forever. As living beings, you naturally exude kinetic energy. Your lives are constantly in a state of flux, especially your sister. A few days follow after your journey to the riverbank, and your sister has been in a curious mood since. She constantly paces about the atelier like a caged tiger, and she's been muttering to herself with alarming frequency. You can hear her muttering now, even as you try to work, her plaintive tones breaking your cocoon of concentration. Oh, good. It's still not enough. It's nowhere near enough, your sister mumbles, sounding more upset than you've ever heard her, more upset than you knew she could be. You blink, bemused, then lift your head. You stare at your sister, who is, in turn, staring down at herself. She's looking down at her arm, so pale and slender, with the sleeve of her shirt rolled up. Her arm is very pale, but it is pockmarked here and there with red bumps and lumps, curious burns, old scars, new scars, and blue-black bruises. You know that your sister has performed any number of peculiar experiments on herself. She often brings her fingertips to the flame to see how long she can hold them there, draws her own blood from the inside of her arm, scrapes away her own dead skin to examine beneath the lens of a microscope. The sight of her bruised arm is not, therefore, too shocking. You're aware of your sister's peculiar proclivities, as it were, know every single cut and burn and bruise on her arms as though they are your own. But all the same, you do not like the disconsolate way she's looking at herself. Your sister is examining her injured, abused arm, as if she claims no ownership of it, as if she does not know it. And it is the disconnect in her eyes which makes you shudder. What does she mean it's not enough? She isn't planning to cut off her whole arm next, is she? Solely to see how she might react? What? Your sister replies, her voice cool. There's a pause, and then... no, of course not. I would never do something like that to myself. That is what she says, at least, but it doesn't sound wholly convincing. Can she promise you that? Naturally. I promise. I am a scientist first and foremost, you know, and I need both my arms to conduct my experiments. It'd only impair my research if I hurt myself too much. Which is where the problem lies, actually. The problem? Yes, there's a problem. I've been experimenting on myself these last couple of months, your sister says, her voice detached. But my own body has run its course. I fear I can't extract any more information out of it. If I continue to ramp up these experiments, I'll hurt myself. I cannot let that happen, but I cannot stop my research either. I still want to reverse death, but I can only learn so much about death from studying the living. Dead rats are all well and good, and so are dead cats, but they are not humans. Their anatomy is not the same as ours. There's only so much I can glean from them. They, too, have outlived their usefulness. Here, your sister pauses. She inhales. Your sister's not one for theatrics. She is very matter-of-fact in all she does, and you do not think she means to create any suspense. Not deliberately, at least. She is simply pausing to think how best to word her following statement. You know she does not want to make you squirm, and yet... I need tea. So, your sister says, heedless of the knot which has begun to form in the pit of your stomach. I need more human bodies to experiment upon. Dead bodies. That is the only way I'll be able to get the information that I need. I know it might sound macabre, but I think it's the next logical step. Do you not agree? Your sister's eyes bore into you, cold and hard, so you shiver. For a few moments, you do not speak. You do not know what to say. Though you doubt there is anything you can say, it seems unlikely, as the seconds tick by, that there's anything you can do to dissuade her. Anything that might be able to curb her mounting madness. You tried once before, to little avail. Though she is your beloved sister, the most precious person to you in all the world, she refused to listen to you. Your entreaties, earnest though they were, could not reach her. She's always been determined to walk her own path. She's headstrong to a fault, and once she set her heart to something, she never wavers. You know, therefore, that she will not let this subject rest. Now she's decided she wishes to experiment upon corpses, there's no going back. But still, you feel compelled to offer up at least a token resistance. It seems like the very least you could do, grimly aware though you are that it'll soon be swept away. You inhale, one hand upon your chest, then ask her to reconsider. If she wishes to cut up corpses, can she not attend her lectures again? They have plentiful material she can use without having to resort to procuring them herself. Surely that would be more ethical? But I can't go back to the university! Your sister argues, her eyes wide behind the lenses of her glasses. I won't go back there, not until my research has made great strides. And to do that, I need to find more bodies. I'll not be able to get anywhere at this rate. You understand her frustrations, of course, but you cannot say you like this idea. Is there not another way? No, your sister says, her voice stiff. If there was, I wouldn't have suggested this. It would be illogical otherwise. Well, she has a point there. You cannot argue with that. Then don't argue with me. Carol, please. Your sister rises as she speaks, onto her slender, deer-like limbs. She takes a step forth and reaches out. She presses her fingers to your yielding flesh, digits splayed as she entreats you. I need your help. I can't do this alone. I'm trusting you with this. The future of my research rests upon your shoulders. Can you not aid me? You shudder. All of a sudden, your mouth feels dry. Your throat, too, as if it's been stuffed full of ashes. For a few moments, you cannot speak. You can only blink. There's a pause, and then... I'm not asking you to kill anybody, Carol. I would never ask you to become a murderess for me. But just think of the future. Think of a world where nobody needs to die. I think that's worth a sacrifice or two. And a few exhumed graves. A few? One exhumed grave is a tall order already, but... Alright, disregard that. One is enough for now. It's more than enough. I just want to have a cadaver here, so I might examine it properly. You just need to dig up a single grave. I'm sure you can find some pauper's grave, somebody who will not be missed. You're sure she's right, but putting the practical concerns to one side, does she not think that awfully macabre? You fear, if you were to dig up a corpse, you would never be admitted to heaven, not after committing so wicked a sin. Would that not make you evil? I fail to see how. Dogs dig up bones all the time. Does that make them evil? Well, no, you reply, but that is an unfair argument. Dogs cannot be evil because they have no concept of human morality. Then do away with your own notions of morality. Don't let it scare you against the greater good. There are many people, you know, who have lived lives devoid of meaning. They lived, and they drank, and they gambled, and whored, and they died in ignominy. These are pointless lives, worthless lives even, one might say. But in death, I can bestow new meanings upon them. I can make them worth something. Do you not think this is a wonderful thing? You look at your sister mutely, her palms still cupping your cheeks, her eyes so wide and searching you could drown in them. You would hesitate to call this wonderful. Your sister's determination, her raw, unshakable certainty, makes you shudder. But, in the end, you capitulate to her whims. You have no other choice. Your sister knows exactly where to press and what to pull to make you fall into line, to make you obey, and you would not have it any other way. It is because of your sister that you find yourself in the local graveyard later that night, with nothing but a lantern to light your way. It is a dark, cold night, not quite stormy, and not yet at least, though based on the gray clouds which swirl overhead, a storm isn't beyond the realm of possibility. You would draw your shawl about you, but your hands are otherwise encumbered. occupied by the handles of a wheelbarrow, which you co-opted for your dark bidding. You intend to use this barrow to transport the corpse from the churchyard to your home. The corpse you will most definitely dig up and bequeath to your sister, for that is what she wants. It is what she asked of you. Inside the barrow is your trusty lamp, which cleaves a path through the fog, and your shovel, which you will need to exhume the grave. Both your hands are occupied pushing the barrow forth, so you cannot pause to wind your shawl about you. All you can do is tremble instead, feeling like a small, sad, piteous thing as the wind moans. It is very late, well past midnight, and there are no lights in the immediate vicinity. The windows of the church are dark, and the nearby houses have been shuttered, their curtains drawn. At least you have the moon to guide you, round and full like a wheel of cheese in the heavens, but it is obscured by clouds. You can only see a few slivers of the moon, but what little you can gather looks ghostly, ominous, maybe a little too close. You swear when you glance up that you can see a face in the moon's pitted, aged surface, a face with large, dark eyes and a sneering mouth, which seems to mock you from afar with cold contempt. The wind sighs, however, stirring the clouds like a witch's brew, and when you look up once more, you cannot see the malevolent face grinning at you. Did you imagine it then? Surely you must have. You're nervy. Oh, well, of course you are. It's awfully late, and you cannot help but jump at the smallest things. You hear ominous whispers in the undergrowth. Feel cold fingers of fog brush your ankles with every single step you take. Every sound, no matter how subtle, makes your heart stammer in your chest, while every sigh of the breeze sounds like an omen. You do not want to keep going. You want to be rid of this night, to flee from it, curled up beneath your sheets. The darkness and the fog and the ominous moonlight cannot reach you. But your promise to your sister prevents you from running. You cannot look back now. You cannot bear to disappoint her. The thought is enough to break your heart, which has never been made of stern stuff. Have you always been so weak, you wonder, with each step you take? When did you become so pathetic? You really are pitiful. Your love for your sister has turned you into a fool. But that is what love is, I'm afraid. It makes idiots out of us all, especially weak, spineless creatures like you, with no dreams or aspirations of your own. You wander through the churchyard, depressing the tall grass underfoot, hearing a soft, subtle crunch as it folds beneath your soles. You glance about this way and that, eyes narrowed, searching for a suitable target. You need to find an inauspicious grave, one which can be exhumed without drawing too much attention. The churchyard is a mismatched, motley collection of graves which spans centuries, scattered across the grass like pieces of bric-a-brac in a second-hand furniture shop. Welcome in, cat! You see large, ornate graves which were obviously constructed for wealthy families, towering structures with stone angels atop them, their hands together in prayer. You see smaller, humbler graves fashioned into simple shapes, and now a little weather-beaten, crosses and books spread open, inscriptions chiseled into the stone. You see graves which look small and simple, discolored stone lozenges, yet it is clear they are still well cared for. Some of the larger gravestones, those with ostentatious angels, are bare of offerings, the angels' eyes overgrown with a soft, springy moss. Some of the smaller gravestones, meanwhile, have clearly been well cared for. They've been cleaned recently, and there are small offerings lying before them. Flowers, little candles in jars, and, in one case, several boiled sweets, all wrapped up in colored paper. There's something touching about these little offerings, something sweetly, softly domestic. The sight of the flowers, and especially the sweets, makes you smile. Perhaps the world is not so very cold and cruel after all. But you cannot spend too much time pondering such things. You have not come here to examine these old graves or to read the inscriptions carved into them. You are here to find a gift for your sister, a carcass that nobody will miss. The large ostentatious graves are no good, even the ones which have been left to go to rack and ruin. Somebody would notice if you disturb them, and anyway, some of these larger graves are ringed with wrought iron to prevent any ne'er-do-wells like you from getting to the bodies. You give the smaller, well-cared-for graves a wide berth too. You cannot bring yourself to dig up the grave of a person whose family still routinely comes to give them offerings. And anyway, it is inevitable somebody would notice if you began to churn up all that earth too. You bypass these graves and continue to walk on and on, until eventually you find the perfect target. There is one small, crumbling tombstone in the back of the churchyard. A tombstone so weathered and wasted, the wind and rain must have whittled it down. This particular tombstone juts out from the ground like a broken tooth, dark and decayed. Several cracks run through this tombstone, and a few pieces of it have broken, craggy lumps of granite scattered through the tall grass. This sad, sorry tombstone is shunted near the back of the churchyard, obscured beneath the shade of a copse of tangled elm trees. And it is at this tombstone that you pause. You approach it, squinting in the dark, holding your lantern aloft. You would like to know who's interred here, beneath the dirt, before you begin to dig, if only so you can apologize to them for disturbing them. But the letters on the gravestone are almost illegible, incomprehensible. They've been worn away. That does not bode well. If the corpse has been buried too long, it might very well have turned into a skeleton. Your sister was not overly picky about what corpse she wanted, but she said she wished for it to have meat enough on its bones to cut into. You wonder whether you oughtn't to double back on yourself, to go for a newer, fresher grave. But this would be your safest bet if you do not want to be discovered. And did your sister not tell you the grounds of this churchyard are special? The mud is silty, and there are chemical compounds in the soil which can ease the progress of decay. You do not know much about this yourself. Though you have spent many years aiding your sister, you've never been as adept at science as she, but you decide to trust her on this matter. She asks you to exhume a corpse, and that is what you'll do. Your sister will have her pound of flesh one way or another. You can only hope there's at least a pound of flesh she'll attach to this corpse, who's been sleeping beneath the earth for God knows how long. You do not want to disturb this nameless sleeper, who has been underground so very long their name is worn off their headstone. But what choice do you have? If forced to pick between a distended dead body and your sister's happiness would win out every single time. That is how much you love her. You inhale the scent of dirt in your nostrils, of the bitter, acrid air. The sky overhead is dark and thick with clouds, and you think it might rain soon. It smells like rain. Part of you wishes it would, if only because it would put this night of madness to a close. You can hardly go disturbing dead bodies in the middle of a rainstorm. But another part of you hopes that the rain holds off, for an hour or so at least, so you can complete your sister's request. You do not want to go back home empty-handed. You're doing this for her. This has always been for her. So, you set your lamp to one side. You retrieve your shovel, which is lying in your barrow, tall and straight and seemingly innocuous. Then, you press its sharp tip into the dirt and begin to dig. You dig and you dig and you dig, the silvery tip of the shovel slicing through the earth. And as you dig, you start to ponder. You feel somewhat guilty for disturbing somebody else's labor, overriding it with your own clumsy, inelegant scrabbling. This whole affair feels disrespectful, not just in regards to the dead who have been slumbering peacefully beneath the ground, but towards the sexton who must have buried these bodies in the first place. You're sure the sexton took a lot of time to inter this body beneath the dirt and the darkness, but you're undoing it all. There's something disrespectful about it all. This act of vandalism makes you shudder. But still, you keep going. You dig and you dig and you dig, but your arms begin to ache from the strain of it, even though more sweat begins to bead upon your brow. It is not easy work. You are unaccustomed to physical labor, and every single arc of the shovel through the dark air makes your arms ache. Your fingers tense around the handle of the shovel, taut, and your breath escapes from between your lips in pained hisses. The more you dig, the more it hurts. The strain on your body only continues to get stronger, the pressure almost unbearable. But bear it you do. You have no other choice. You work and you work and you work over and over, until eventually, the silver head of your shovel hits something hard. Not a stone or a pebble, but something flat and smooth. Is that the coffin? You dig all the more, frenzied like a dog, until at long last you're able to uncover your prize. It is indeed a coffin, a roughly hewn wooden thing, which is caved in from the pressure of all the dirt resting atop it. You'd worried that you might need to fuss with the screws in the coffin in an attempt to pry them out, but you're in luck. You can already see the corpse interred within, glimpses of it at least. You just need to clear away the large splinters of broken wood. Then, you can finally free your prize. And you won't need to worry about the nails. Simple. Well, it sounds simple when you say it like that, but nothing about this enterprise has been. You do not relish the thought of jumping down into the hole you've dug, 7 feet deep, then prizing open the lid of the worm-eaten coffin. But what choice do you have? You've already come this far, have exposed your prize before your roving gaze. You can hardly back out now. You draw in a deep breath, trying to steady yourself. Then, into the darkness you descend. You let yourself into the hole you've dug with a dull thud, scattering clods of dirt in the process. The soles of your shoes press against the scattered lid of the coffin, which ruptures beneath your weight, groaning as if in pain. The sound of the splintering coffin fills the churchyard, a low, pained cry like an animal in distress. For a few moments you stand there, frozen, your blood ice cold with fear, but nobody comes to apprehend you. There's nobody to witness you in this appalling, arcane act. There's just you, and the stars, and the moon. Perhaps the moon can see you from beyond the veil of clouds which cover it. Perhaps it knows what you're doing. A large, staring eye. And if it does, it passes no judgment. It cannot speak, after all. The churchyard is eerily quiet, in fact, as you set about your macabre misdeeds. You prise open the lid of the coffin, scrabbling with your fingertips, the beds of your nails dark with dirt. It takes no shortage of finagling. You are not the fittest of young ladies, but you are able to make progress. Slowly, you unveil your prize from the darkened depths of the coffin. The flesh still there, but sloughing from the bones. The face sunken, and the eyes reduced to a putrid jelly within the staring sockets. The smell is overwhelming, trapped in its coffin beneath the ground for, God, you know not how long. The stink of it rushes forwards to greet you, just like a tin of pilchards opened after 5 years spent in the sunlight. The stench is intense and oppressive, so much so you hardly have the words for it. I want to stay awake, but your voice really is magical. Thank you so much. You don't know how you'll describe this part of the grave robbing experience to anybody, but it's unlikely you'll need to describe this to anybody save your sister. Why would you tell anybody of this? You only serve to incriminate yourself. Not blood on your hands, but dirt. God, there's so much dirt. So much soil and silt and mud and sludge and slime. It coats your hands, stains your skirts. You feel sick and oh so achy, weary all the way down to your bones and the marrow which lies within them. But you're not finished yet. Now, you need to remove the exposed body from its hole. You need to extract it from the cavity you've created, then convey it to safety? Are you taking this body to safety? It seems unlikely, given your sister's designs upon it. You know, based on how eagerly she dissembles things, that she will not be gentle to this corpse. She will take it apart, piece by piece, to see how it all fits together. And, based on her mood, she might not put it back together. Your sister has always been mercurial. A woman who will run electric currents through the cranium of an elderly tortoise out of scientific interest is not to be trusted with a dead body. But you've come this far, and, once again, you did promise your sister. You will get your sister her flesh, raw and rotting, exuding the stink of the grave. How she treats it is of no concern to you. Nothing else matters, save her happiness. You're able to haul the corpse out of the hole in the ground, though how you manage it you're not quite sure. Then you deposit it rather gracelessly in your barrow. The corpse is in surprisingly good shape, given it's been buried for such a long time, but it is brittle too, the bones fragile like dried kindling. You drop it into the barrel with a bit too much force, and there's an unpleasant crack as the back of its head hits the barrel's rim, a snap as the right hand catches beneath its body. You would not be surprised if you've broken a few bones. You've always been clumsy, as poor Safi will attest. But at least you do not put out your new companion's eyes. That might be quite the difficult task, given its eyes have more or less melted. A dark brown fluid slopping around the inside of the sockets as if it were an oyster shell. You shudder. During your attempts to haul the corpse upwards, it began to rain. Now these icy droplets drum on you, your scalp, shoulders, and down the back of your dress. When you glance back, you see the hole you've dug is in an awful state. It's swimming with water, and the mud has turned red in the moon's light, silty and squelching. You do not fancy going back to that hole you made to fill it up anew, but you must. You have no choice. You cannot let anybody know that you were here. If anybody were to see the gaping, open hole left behind, they would know what you've done, and that would defeat the point of targeting this grave in the first place. You need to think more, use your head. This is why your sister was admitted to the university, not you. Think, Caroline. You approach the grave that you have dug, the deep, rectangular hole gaping in the damp, wet earth. And as you do, you wonder whether this is what you really desired. Did you make a mistake somewhere along the line? Certainly you never dreamed of digging a hole in the dirt late at night for your sister's benefit, and smearing yourself with soil into the bargain. You never dreamed that supporting your sister would be such a dangerous, degrading affair. You never realized how difficult it would be. Perhaps you did not want to. You wanted to believe that if you served your sister willingly, she'd be gracious enough to see you as an equal. But is that really true? How can she see you as an equal when she has you running errands like this for her? Does that not prove that she does not respect you? These thoughts swirl about in your mind, dark and sinister, just like the soil you shovel back into the hole your pilfered corpse once called home. You heap the earth into the hole while the rain falls around you, so cold you hiss from it. The ground is horribly muddy, wet and unstable, and you almost fall forwards on several occasions. Once you drop your shovel, and, your heart beating wildly, you fear you'll pitch headfirst into your half-full hole, into the dirt and the darkness. But you're able to right yourself just in time, before the worst can happen. You sigh with relief upon gaining your bearings, wiping your sweaty brow with the back of your dirty arm. But now is no time to celebrate. You just dug up a corpse, and it is waiting for you now, in a wheelbarrow. You have committed a vile act, wicked and profane. But you did it for love. You did it for your sister. You did it to make her smile. And as you pat the last of the dirt down onto the grave you once exhumed, you find yourself wondering, maybe the rain is God's way of saying he forgives you for your sin. Maybe the rain means to cleanse you of your crimes, to purify you from the outside in. Maybe there's still hope for you, child of God, who strayed from the path so readily. Salvation is ahead. You just need to reach out and grasp it. That is what you tell yourself. But the only thing you grasp are the handles of your barrow, where your putrefying burden awaits. You exit the graveyard, gripping your barrow all the while. Your shoes slap against the cobblestones, and as they do, you try to reassure yourself that you did nothing wrong, that you were only trying to aid your sister. It'll all be alright. You've struggled too much tonight for it not to be fine. You continue to tell yourself this, repeating it like a mantra, as you wend your way through the streets with your gruesome package. Typically, it would not take much longer than 10 minutes for you to reach your home from the churchyard, but with your burden, the barrow and the body within it, it takes at least thrice that. You have to walk slowly, taking care as you navigate the cobblestones, not to be seen. Every single sound makes you start. The laughter of distant, drunken revelers enough to make your heart seize up inside your chest. You cannot risk anybody seeing you. Your hands, stained with dirt to the elbows, and the gruesome bundle which you're transporting. It takes a small eternity. Every single noise makes you startle, but eventually you reach your destination. You arrive back home. You let yourself inside gratefully, the key clicking in the lock, and almost collapse in the entrance. You inhale deeply, pressing one hand to your chest as you try to gather your bearings. You've always thought the air in your sister's atelier to be horribly stuffy, but you welcome it now. You're tired after all of that walking, and you're sick of the smell of the outside, the stench of the dirt, the air, and the rain. You'd like to draw yourself a bath, then dress for bed, and sleep the rest of the night away, the ensuing day too. But you have your new companion to worry about, and you cannot simply leave them in the entrance. Unwillingly, you look back at your guest. You take in you do not know if it's a man or a woman, atrophied face, its bruised, broken hands, the mottled skin which sloughs like strips of torn linen from its chest. You suppress a shudder, your fingers tensing, nails sinking into your palms. Somehow, the corpse looks even worse in the lights of your sister's atelier. You did not notice before, in the dark, how mottled its skin was. Purple-green, like the fuzz of an overripe peach. You did not realize how sunken its cheeks, how matted its hair, how putrid its eyes or what remains of them. But this is what your sister wanted. This is what she asked for, and you have delivered. Now, you need only present the fruits of your hard work to your sister. You force yourself to approach the corpse resting in the barrow, though the smell is truly atrocious, and seize its handles anew. Then, you wheel the barrow further into your atelier, into your inner sanctum. You take it to the study, where you and your sister often work, poring at your respective desks surrounded by books. But to your disappointment, no, not necessarily your surprise, your sister is not awake to greet your new guest. She's worn herself out again, and she has fallen asleep at her desk. Her cheek presses against her inner arm, her fair eyelashes matted. Her face is slightly flushed in slumber, though only slightly, and her chest rises and falls in sleep. You observe her for a few moments, gripping the handles of the barrow, and as you do, you are struck with a sudden, unexpected anger. What is she doing, sleeping? How could she slumber like this without a care in the world when she has been making you do all of her dirty work? The least she could do is thank you for digging up this corpse like a dog, the ungrateful. But you take another look at your sister, so small and defenseless in her slumber, and your complaints die in your throat. You cannot even begin to bring yourself to utter them. Indeed, you feel guilty for even thinking them. You cannot hurl such abuse at your sister. You love her, after all. You must love her. If you do not, then why did you dig up this corpse to begin with? Stupid. You chastise yourself, your eyelids squeezing shut. You're so stupid. Well, never matter. You will simply leave the barrel here then, by your sister's side. She will see the corpse when she awakes, and she will know instinctively what it means. She will know what you have done for her, and maybe then she will understand how you really feel about her. Right now, that is the only hope you have to cling to. And I know that this is a little sudden, but we're gonna call it here. That was just a lot. Wow. Next stream we'll finish the game. It'll probably be like a 2-hour stream or so. But no, dang, I'm sorry. My voice is a little tired. Oh man, that was weird. Like, while I was reading it, I feel like I like entered into like some sort of trance. It was strange. Like I just like vanished. Understandable though. I feel like also, I mean, Abby's writing then also kind of felt a little bit like it wasn't detached, but something about it, you know, was just, you know, long-winded. I wouldn't say that because that has the implication that it was unpleasant. It wasn't unpleasant. It was lengthy, but I mean, I feel like it's also really important to drive home that like, yeah, we dug up a corpse for her. And like we went through all of that. And then we come home and she's just asleep. Without a care in the world, drooling. Without any consideration for all of the effort that we just went through. Like, really drove it home just how, like, the fact that, you know, the fact that Carol is so willing to, like, Carol's willing to dig up corpses for her. Like, she is head over heels. Anyway, thank you everybody so much for joining me for your glass heart in my hands. And next time, for sure, I think we'll be finishing this game. So, I will see y'all next time in a couple of days or so. And with that, everybody, thank you so much for coming, and good night.